Pirates Fire Dragon Roar Chapter 701 to 720. Chapter 701 Attack. The air suddenly became hot and dry, as if the distance of the sun was suddenly pulled into the outside of the earth, as if the entire sea would be evaporated immediately. The terrifying temperature was just an instant, and it had spread wantonly on the sea surface. Wow, it's on fire. The little devil who was thrown on the deck by Vlad looked stunned. In front of her, the side of the huge sea ship flying in the air suddenly burst into flames, and then the flames quickly spread on the side of the ship. Spread. It's getting more and more amazing. Tesoro on the side, he snapped his fingers, and the ring on his right hand began to vibrate instantly, and then with a smack, it bounced out directly, turning into a golden blade, directly smashing the side of the ship flew out. This guy Vlad. Tesoro smiled, pressed his finger, and the going ring had returned to his finger after knocking it off the side of the boat. Is this what he looks like when he wakes up? It looks really powerful. Yeah, what a beautiful gesture. Stussy was also in admiration. This woman was very intoxicated. It's so handsome, little Vlad. Ah. Dong dong dong. The little girl with blonde hair ran to the side of the boat in 2 steps, her mouth suddenly opened wide. Lord Lantern was killed. On the sea below, the waves are turbulent, and the huge waves are wave after wave, as if it will never stop. And what caused all this was the huge corpse on the sea, the corpse of the huge lanternfish, the corpse of the huge lanternfish that seemed to have been roasted directly, exuding a strong meat fragrance. It is indeed dead. This huge lanternfish called Lord Lantern has indeed been directly killed by Vlad's breath. Even the body has been baked and can be eaten directly. Vlad's flame is really no joke. After awakening, the temperature has increased by leaps and bounds. Even with such a huge body, in fact, such a temperature is definitely not something that a lanternfish can resist. Being roasted is its only end. Gently landed on the deck, Vlad had returned to his human form. Yeah, this is done. It's so easy. Well done, Vlad. The old god Tesoro said, how about too scary? Is this the power of the 4 emperors? Such a huge lanternfish can be solved with 1 blow. It's kind of soft-hearted. Vlad said casually, if he was serious, he could directly fry this fish to the sky. Fantastic, Vlad Jr. With such a voice, Vlad was greeted by a warm and soft embrace. The beautiful woman directly pressed Vlad's head into her arms, looking very excited. Although this woman is a malicious agent, she is still a woman first, and as long as she is a woman, she cannot refuse the temptation of permanent youth. Be quiet, stupid woman. Pushing away the excited Stussy, Vlad didn't seem to care. Of course he wouldn't blush because of this level of physical contact. So, the next thing to do is... Sighed, Tesoro seemed eager to try, take the pure gold out of there, right? The man named Guild Tesoro is a Paramesha golden fruit ability. Compared with Vlad, who is a dragon, his desire for going is undoubtedly strong. Well, Vlad is also looking forward to it. Even he is very curious about such a treasure. On the sea below, an island-like lanternfish floated quietly, without the slightest jumping around before. It had already lost its life in Vlad's attack, but the tentacles extending from its forehead. The bright light is still flashing. This place is what Vlad was looking for. Hee. Vlad laughed. So, pure gold, I'll take it. Just as he was about to say this, Vlad's eyes widened, his body tilted abruptly, and a dazzling beam of light brushed just right across his chest. Tisk. With a slight smacking of his lips, Vlad looked a little unhappy. So, is the troublemaker here? Yeah, it's so lucky. The shining photon stream gathered. Just in the blink of an eye, the man in the yellow striped suit and the justice cloak was already standing on the mast of the big ship, with his hands on the pergola, and his tone of voice was very happy. I actually found the legendary pure gold. This is a great achievement, right? This time I should raise my salary no matter what. That guy Akainu has no reason to shirk. Hey, bro Kizaru, please think about the salary increase later. The problem is, you bastard. Vlad stood on the deck, raised his head and said loudly, "It's too arrogant, isn't it? These pure gold are my trophies. Listen to me clearly, it's mine." "Oh, but there are so many." Kizaru looked a little distressed. "Be a little more generous, brother Fire Dragon." "Well, it's not impossible to divide you in half." Vlad pinched his chin, turned his head to think, and said, "As long as you are willing to come to us, brother Kizaru, everything is negotiable." "It sounds great. After the reform of the Fire Dragon Kingdom, I heard that you are also very rich. If it was in the past, the treatment should be very good, right?" Kizaru looked overjoyed, but right away, the man frowned again. "But if he does, Akainu will kill me." Hissing that guy's madness is scary. "Well, Akainu, don't be afraid of him, bro Kizaru." Vlad smiled, "My ability completely restrains him. If he comes to trouble you, I will help you solve it." "Oh." Kizaru's eyes lit up. "It seems reasonable to say that. In this case, I can go to your place with peace of mind." "Really, Kizaru Admiral, is it better to keep these words as little as possible?" At this time, it was very abrupt, and a certain man's voice came in from one side. "Anyway, it's not good for me to hear it." "Ah, that sucks." Kizaru patted his head and looked a little cute. "I was heard, and it was heard by the CP people. It's over." "Oh tilde, I really didn't expect it." Vlad turned his head in surprise and looked at the man who suddenly appeared on the bow. "Even you were dispatched. How dare Tenryubito be so brave? How dare you leave Mariajoy?" Chapter 702 Desperate. Tenryubito is the most noble race in the world. Whether it is acknowledged or not, the thing that cannot be changed is that Tenryubito is at the top of the world hierarchy and is a unique privileged class. A well-deserved world aristocrat. As the rationale and legal basis of the government's rational administration, the safety of Tenryubito is an important issue that the government cannot ignore. Once Tenryubito is attacked, no matter the reason, Marine Admiral will be dispatched immediately. This has been known to everyone in the world. Information. But Marine is a violent organization under the government after all. It is an army. The enemy is pirates all over the sea. It does not have the responsibility and time to protect Tenryubito full-time. Marine Admiral is even more so. The 4 emperors of the New World are already difficult to deal with. So much time to protect Tenryubito. Therefore, the role of CP0 is highlighted in this way. Unlike other organizations in the CP series, CP0 is not just an espionage organization. At the same time, this organization is also Tenryubito's strongest shield. As far as the government is concerned, the sequence of CP0 also above the Marine headquarters. CP0 is directly responsible to the Gorosei, 5 elders, and is responsible for the protection of Tenryubito. Even Martial Marine is not easy to do in front of them. After all, CP0 Feet's leader position is vaguely above the commander-in-chief of the government. As Tenryubito's shield, CP0 not only has a high status, but also the strength of these guys is also not to be underestimated. CP0 who can take on the heavy responsibility of surrounding Tenryubito is definitely not a super strong under the 4 emperors admiral. This kind of thing is already known. And now, the man who appeared in front of Vlad, if nothing else, was the strongest shield protecting Tenryubito, the supreme commander of CP0. Vlad could clearly feel that it was overflowing with belongings, the breath of the strong. Presumably Mariajoy said no one would be able to do anything wrong there. "I don't know the name for the time being," the man wearing a white robe and a mask said with a smile. "It really doesn't matter if I'm here or not." "Yeah tilde, I'm really confident." Vlad laughed, "But is it really good to say this in front of my face?" Ferdinando Vlad, the man who once made a big fuss in Mariajoy. "So, that's why." This man, the leader of CP0, opened his mouth and said, "Fire Dragon Vlad, what you have done has completely blocked the way of the government." "Oh, yeah." Vlad's mouth twitched. "The government, and the world, can't stand your existence any longer." The leader of CP0 shouted. Really? Vlad stretched out his right hand and hooked his index finger. Come and try it. Don't worry. The boss of CP0 smiled. There is enough time today to have fun. Puff puff puff. A series of low noises. On the sea below, a huge battleship broke out, just like the Whitebeard pirates when they were on the top of the war, but this time the person who used it became government and marine. Oh, that's true. Vlad pouted. Troublesome guys. Hey hey hey, Marine Admiral plus CP0 Supreme Commander, and 5 Marine warships at the same time, is this scale to go to war with the 4 emperors? Tessero looked astonished, but speaking of it, it is indeed a war with the 4 emperors. Hello, CP.S. I remember it's called Solera Ball, right? Oh, look, this isn't what Tenryubito used to be in the eyes of a celebrity. The name is Ball, and the head of the world government's top secret agency said, Going Emperor, Mr. Guild Tessero. The target is only Vlad, right? Tessero scratched his ears indifferently, and said, It's nothing to do with me, right? Hey, Tessero. Vlad twitched the corners of his mouth. Aren't we allies? Only when it won't kill you. Tessero replied. Ha ha ha, I don't really care, but Tessero. Ball smiled. The order above is to wipe out all those who have anything to do with fire dragons. Of course you are also one of the targets. Cut. Sure enough. Tessero turned his head in annoyance and said to Vlad, Then, Vlad, let's fight together. Hey. Vlad looked confused. Didn't you just say you're not my ally? I lied to you, don't take it seriously. Tessero waved his hand. You're just lying to me now. Vlad's eyes twitched. Oh, you too, is the crosstalk show here? Kizaru, who stood on the mast for a while, said, I still have a mission. Destroy my mission. Vlad smiled, then let's try it out. By the way, Fire Dragon. Named Ball disappeared instantly, and appeared in front of Vlad like a lightning bolt. The black fist had already smashed towards Vlad's head. The order given to us above is to erase everything related to you. Guy. When? The 2 fists slammed together heavily, and the sturdy deck of the ship was lifted up in an instant, and the violent wind blew everything away. The mask on Ball's head was also blown away by the wind, revealing the man's face inside. It looked a little vicissitudes of life. He looked about 50 years old. It was when he was young and strong, thick, tied into small braids, and finally erected to the sky on the top of the head. So guess what? Ball's face would be on Vlad's face. Woo! The fist drew a huge arc in the air, and the strong wind pressure whistled away, forming a strong wind in the air. As expected of the 4 emperors. Gently landed on the side of the ship. Ball's face was a little dignified, but, Fire Dragon, do you know what kind of troops are already moving towards your territory? It doesn't matter. Vlad said, I just do my own thing. A smile on his face, I just want to win here. The rest is not your concern. Vlad thought so. At the same time, the location is the Fire Dragon Kingdom, as Ball said. Just as Vlad was attacked, the Fire Dragon Kingdom also ushered in the enemy. At the center of Thassa Island flying in the sky, the beautiful lady maid said solemnly. Hey, this is the worst possible situation. It's not an exaggeration to say that it is a desperate situation. Chapter 703 Flank. Not long after Vlad left the Fire Dragon Kingdom, the location was of course the Fire Dragon Kingdom in the second half of the New World. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Just when Vlad met Marine Admiral and the Supreme Commander of CP0 at the same time, the two were like monster-like opponents, and when a few Marine battleships were added, the Fire Dragon Kingdom, the Fire Dragon Pirates, and now also encounter a crisis. Things happened suddenly. It was still early, and it was almost time for lunch, when Thassa was at its most relaxed. But now, tension was spreading all over the island. Has it come to us already? In the center of Thassa Island flying above the sky, in a certain room, the chef looked a little dignified and said solemnly. While the captain is away. Beside the chef, the maid also looked very heavy. You are really brave enough to think that the captain will eat us when he is not there. Right in front of the two of them, a light screen projected from the eyes of the phone bug that had been placed on the side. On the light screen, there is a scene of a huge fleet, with a huge battleship in the center, followed by 7 ships that are slightly smaller but still huge. The pirate flag flutters on it, the pink hair is fluttering, and there is a pirate flag with conspicuous lipstick. There is only one pirate flag like this in the world, and no one dares to use the similar or even the same pirate flag again. There is no doubt, because this flag is one of the 4 emperors who dominate the New World, the pirate flag of the Big Mom pirate group. As long as the pirates are not tired of living, they know what to do. It was noticed a long time ago. Not long after Vlad left, the people of the Fire Dragon pirates had already noticed that the Big Mom pirates had already moved. Dangling came over, and there is no need to say more about his intentions. Naturally, there will be no good news. Of course, he came with the idea of attacking. But speaking of it, the media construction of Ring Fire Dragon Country is still very fruitful, not only in terms of news media, but also phone bugs can also serve as military surveillance materials. That is to say, behind the chef, the man with his arms around his chest and leaning against the wall didn't look anxious, but instead smiled. It's time to have a good fight. If nothing else. Chef sighed, this time it's impossible not to fight. Yeah, ha ha ha, that's interesting. Enno laughed loudly. After being idle for so long, the bones are rusting. Stop talking nasty things here. The maid scolded a little unhappily. Didn't you hear what the captain said before? The Big Mom pirates are already troublesome enough, but this time the opponents aren't just them. Understood. If we are not careful, we will usher in a disaster. Tisk. Enno looked a little unhappy, but the problem is that you can't fight. There is a situation. There is a situation. Suddenly, a loud cry rang out from the room, and he looked a little panicked. Calm down, asshole. The maid scolded mercilessly. Now is not the time to panic. Yes, yes, Lord Baby 5. The soldier who was reprimanded looked a little frightened. So? Cook asked, what did you find? Marine fleet. Xiaobing said loudly, in the northeast of the Fire Dragon Kingdom, Marine's fleet has been discovered. What? Maid was startled and sneered, is it finally here? After Vlad knew that the person who invited him to the treasure hunt was Stussy, he had realized that the so-called treasure hunt this time was probably the ghost of the government, which was an action planned by the government against him. So now that he has been led away, the rest of the Fire Dragon Kingdom is of course a place that needs to be cleaned up. Vlad is still quite confident. After all, the Fire Dragon Kingdom is a place he created with his own hands, and its impact on the world is far greater than imagined. Larger. Here, definitely not the government, definitely not where Tenryubito could allow it to survive. Hey, what a fantastic idea. Walking quickly to the front of the monitoring screen, the doctor of the Fire Dragon Pirates, Luo said in surprise, did it come from the coding? The place displayed on the screen is the bottom of the sea. There can be hundreds of meters below the sea surface. The light is very dim, but it can still be seen that a huge marine fleet has moved towards this side. The big fleet of the Big Mom pirates on one side just wrapped the Fire Dragon Kingdom in the middle. Marine Grand Fleet. The cook murmured, then asked aloud, can you see who the commander of the fleet is? Who is it? Luo's eyes suddenly opened. Ah, I can see, the angle is just right. I happen to see that in the middle of the huge fleet, on the large ship in the center, the man in the purple kimono standing on the bow seemed to turn his head to this side thoughtfully. In the next moment, the screen instantly went black, and all the images were displayed. Fujitora. Luo's voice was a little solemn, the leader is Marine Admiral Fujitora. Really? Chef frowned, the most troublesome enemy. The base of the Fire Dragon Pirates is above the sky, and it is impossible for ordinary people to reach it. Even Kizaru, who can fly, can only fly up by himself, and then he is greeted by a merciless group fight. However, Fujitora is different. This man can manipulate gravity. He can easily let the ruins of the whole city fly into the sky. It is really easy to take a few people up into the air. Really, Marine Admiral in front and the 4 emperors in the back. The maid's tone was a little dignified. This is the worst situation. It's hard to imagine. Luo said, Marine and the 4 emperors can actually cooperate. Not necessarily. Chef shook his head. Does Marine know about this matter? However, right now they are our enemies, that's for sure. But you can't do it without fighting. Chef said with a smile, I'm afraid it's not easy on the captain's side. He has already said it, and the matter here is left to us. We can't let him down. Yeah, ha ha ha, it's no use talking nonsense. Enel smiled. In the end, the only way to go is fighting. That's what I say, but fighting also requires methods. Chef said, if we fight head-on, our combat power is at an overwhelming disadvantage. At the same time, we have absolutely no chance of winning. This kind of thing is already obvious. However, it is not impossible to fight. In order to win, we must have a little bit of strategy. A smile appeared on the corner of the chef's mouth. Besides, it's not that there are no reinforcements. Chapter 704 Reinforcements. Vlad still doesn't know what kind of situation the Fire Dragon Kingdom is facing now, because the situation he is facing now is not much better than that of his partners. After all, the opponents he is facing now are Admiral and Glint from the Marine Headquarters. Kazaru of Glint Fruit Abilities. X23 US. Com updates fastest. The other is also a rare monster-level master, the strongest shield-guarding Tenryubito, and the supreme commander of CP0. Although he is not well known, the strength of this man can be undoubtedly felt as long as he stands in front of him. Arrive. The opponent is very strong, but the teammates are very weak, which is really helpless. Tessero's strength is not bad, even compared to the top cadre of the Big Mom Pirates. Desert 3 stars is not far behind, even compared with Charlotte Katakuri, they have their own advantages, even slightly better. Of course, the premise that he always has such fighting power is that the home of the battle is in his base camp, Bulan, Tassolo, provided that there is an overwhelming presence of goings that he has sensed. However, the current situation is that the place he is in is a huge sea ship, and there is no going for him to use at all. Even if he uses Awakening to turn the ship into going, it will definitely not be able to achieve the same level as in Guren, Tassolo. Overwhelming, his strength was definitely greatly weakened under such circumstances. Then another. It's terrible. Some shivered and hid behind Vlad. Stussy's voice was a little sharp, which made Vlad's ears hurt a little. Marine Admiral Kazaru and the leader of CP0, Little Vlad, how on earth did you provoke this? Opponents. This one is no longer a teammate at all, just an undercover on the opposite side, but it has not jumped yet. However, Vlad Vivi is a little surprised at this woman even now that she has not jumped backwards. Things have developed to the current situation. This ghost woman still has no intention of jumping backwards because her heart is still in his hand. Inside. Or do you have to bury the next move just because you haven't seen the final result yet? Vlad was a little confused. Tisk. The government has really put in a lot of effort. Vlad spread his hands and smiled. Is it really good to go to war for me alone? I look down on myself too much, Fire Dragon. The commander-in-chief of CP0, the man named Ball's voice was very low. He said coldly, government, hey, I'll just say it directly. The people at the top can't stand your existence any longer. That country is called Hope, right? Its existence has affected the balance of the world. The top one. Vlad Hihi Isho, Tenryubito. Really, it's just a bunch of stupid pigs eating and waiting to die, but it turns out to be a bit of a vision. Tenryubito, the god of this world, the creator. Ball clenched his fists tightly, twisted his neck Vivi, and said, isn't this a truth that 3-year-olds know? Yes, but... Vlad shook his head, that's what only a 3-year-old would believe. Tisk, it seems that no amount of nonsense makes any sense. Ball grinned, his scarlet tongue in stark contrast to his white teeth. This is the end of your life. Prepare to die. Fire Dragon. Yeah, really. Vlad raised his head. Does this think it's killing me? Is there any way to break the game? Ball frowned suddenly. Don't be kidding. No way. Kizaru was also very surprised. Now you are facing the strongest commander of Marine Admiral plus CP0, Brother Fire Dragon, but don't say that you still have the possibility of winning against such a combination. Nonsense. This is of course impossible. Even Whitebeard's resurrection is absolutely impossible to win with the joint efforts of these two monsters, and Vlad naturally can't do it. I never said such a thing. The flames rose up, and the dark red fire dragon had appeared on the deck. How do you guess it's your own business? Ah, Zone Mythical, where's the dragon fruit? Kizaru opened his mouth in amazement and said, although it's not the first time I've seen it, I still feel that. Boom. An instant, the mast on which Kizaru was standing had shattered, and the huge dragon man had already appeared in the sky, shaking his wings. However, even though Vlad's speed was so fast, he still did not catch up with Kizaru's speed, and almost instantly left the place and appeared in the higher and farther sky. It's so dangerous, I was almost killed. Kizaru patted his chest, looking overly frightened. Tisk. Vlad also looked unhappy. The response is really fast enough. Because last time. Kizaru bowed his head, his body had already started to flash. I really appreciate your care. Chi. The air let out an overwhelmed whine, and several beams of dazzling ray of light had already shot straight towards Vlad. What's the use of this? There is absolutely no need for extra thinking. All the attacks on the subconscious side of the body have been avoided. Really? A majestic figure instantly appeared behind Vlad. The man named Ball had already clenched his fist. The fist was dark, and the powerful armament hockey was attached to it. Behind Vlad. However, such an obvious attack of course couldn't escape the detection of observation hockey. Almost instantly, ZZGE was launched, and Vlad had already returned to his body and threw a heavy punch. Boom. The sky is roaring. A strong storm suddenly began to blow, and everything shivered in it. Ah! Somewhat surprised and whispered, Ball had been directly blasted out by Vlad and fell towards the sea. What a terrifying power. The addition of Zone Devil Fruit to people's physical fitness is really terrifying, even more so after awakening. Vlad's power has become so strong that even the top powerhouse cannot compete with it. However, Ball's mouth curled into a smile. He is not alone. Oh, show me your back. Such a soft voice. Kizaru raised his right hand, and a powerful laser flashed on his hand. It didn't take time at all. In an instant, Vlad's back would be hit heavily. However, this did not happen. A low voice sounded, and in Kizaru's somewhat surprised eyes, a figure suddenly gathered behind Kizaru and kicked Kizaru heavily. View. Turned into a beam of light, Kizaru was directly blasted out. Yeah. Vlad smiled, the reinforcements are finally here. Chapter 705 2-2. Sorry. Obviously he didn't know how to move, but the man who suddenly appeared behind Vlad could easily float in the sky, as if something was holding him up. Is it a little too late? No. Vlad smiled, the wings on his back vibrated heavily, the terrifying power spread, and the strong wind pressure dissipated. Vlad's body dashed forward like lightning, but it appeared on his face in an instant. In front of the surprised Ball. The huge fist was raised high and slammed directly at Ball. Cut. Raising his arms a little unhappily, the pitch-black hockey was attached to them, and Ball's mood might not be too beautiful. Boom. The dull low sound, without any accident, although he could rely on Moonstep to stay in the air, but under Vlad's terrifying power, Ball could only be blown away helplessly. I think it's just right. Gently flapping his wings, Vlad had a smile on his face, looking very happy. Isn't this a big surprise for them? Really? Vlad's reinforcements breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. that's really good, and I'll feel very guilty if something goes wrong because of my late arrival. Well, don't worry about that. Vlad turned his head. I'm so happy to be able to help. Dragon suddenly appeared on the battlefield and kicked Kizaru away as of course the top strongman in the world. He is currently an ally of Vlad, an army that upholds the will of the people, and the supreme commander of the Revolutionary Army. The man's name is Monkey D. Dragon. Dragon came to the Fire Dragon Kingdom not long ago, and had a good conversation with a man named Jack. He didn't know what to talk about, but just before this happened, he hadn't left. Since he knew that the government was doing things against him, then it is necessary to find a helper. Vlad understands very well that the government is not a fool, and will honestly send a bunch of inexplicable guys to find trouble for him. Since he has made a decision, what awaits him must be an incomparably powerful force. Then, he has to prepare himself. Unexpectedly, Dragon easily agreed to his request. The government is not only Vlad's enemy, but also his own enemy. When there is an opportunity to unite allies to fight back against the government, Dragon really has no reason be able to refuse such a request. This is really bad. The shining photons converged, and Kizaru appeared in the sky again, but he was not hurt, but his face was rare and solemn. The most vicious criminal in the world is actually getting mixed up with the most troublesome fire dragon in the Four Emperors. For the government, this is indeed a very bad thing. The Four Emperors themselves are big warlords entrenched in the New World. Even if the government wants to do something with the Four Emperors, it will be very difficult. The imperial capital has the ability to easily destroy a fleet. If you want to defeat a Four Emperor pirates, the consciousness that needs to be done well is that without miscellaneous soldiers, high-end combat power rushes into the territory of the Four Emperors, so as to fight decisively. To achieve such a deed, the three admirals may only succeed together. This is also based on the situation where the Four Emperors stayed in their hometown stupidly and waited for someone to steal. This time, the action for the Fire Dragon Pirates is also based on the situation where Vlad was transferred away and attacked with another Four Emperor Pirates, 2 admirals plus the highest combat power of CP0 and a candidate admiral dispatched together. That is, in this way, the government has enough confidence to be able to do such a thing. The Four Emperors are so powerful, the emperor who dominates the New World is not an empty talk. But what is happening now is that the powerful Four Emperor pirates have been mixed up with the more troublesome Revolutionary Army. This is indeed the most troublesome situation. Long time no see, Borsellino. Compared to Kizaru's vigilance, Dragon was able to greet him calmly. Don't. Kizaru smiled. If it's about you, there's no place for me in this world. Isn't that just right? Vlad smiled, just in time to overthrow the world with Mr. Dragon. That is to say. Some dull voices sounded. The man who stepped on the air had already flown into the sky, and the leader of CP0 said, Fire Dragon, you really have bad intentions against the government, right? Yeah, is that even a question? Vlad smiled. Ball, is that the name? I'm a pirate, how can I like the government? No, I mean, Dragon. Ball's voice was particularly serious. You are against this world, against the rules of this world. For the order of this world, have a bad heart. That's why we will be united with the Revolutionary Army. Oh, that's a big proposition. Vlad smiled. It's hard for people to answer, but when it comes to being wicked, it's your world government that harbors the deepest malice towards this world, right? An expected answer. Ball raised his head. The chill in his eyes seemed to freeze Vlad instantly. With a light step on his right foot, his body was already dashing forward like lightning, and he rushed towards Vlad directly. So that's why the government absolutely cannot tolerate you. Tolerate me. The corner of Vlad's mouth twitched, and his body shot out, far faster than Ball, but he was already approaching him in an instant, and his body suddenly flicked, and the huge tail was already moving towards him like an Optimus jade pillar. Ball flung past. Beep. Some dull whispers. Huh. Vlad was abruptly startled. His tail had indeed hit Ball, but this guy did not receive even the slightest damage, not even the slightest shaking. Too naive. With such a low voice, Ball clasped Vlad's tail tightly in his hand and swung it violently. Ah! Vlad exclaimed, it was a terrifying power, completely different from when he was knocked into the air before. A capable one. With such doubts, Vlad has been thrown out. Don't try to run. Such a loud shout, Ball stepped on the air and chased after Vlad. Is that guy also capable? The situation Vlad encountered made Dragon a little frowning. Although he was an old opponent with CP0, there was actually no serious confrontation. After all, if all the leaders of CP0 met, then there was no reason not to meet Marine Admiral. View. With a soft sound, Dragon's body was instantly shattered by a beam of light. At this time, his face turned and looked at the opposite side. Logia's attack doesn't work for you who are also Logia. Kizaru looked annoyed. It's really troublesome. Huh. Dragon chuckled, waved his hand, and the wind began to blow. Chapter 706 Against. Cut, the bastard. On the big ship floating in the sky, Tessero looked a little troubled with his hand on the side of the ship. Even though there were reinforcements, he didn't tell me. Is Tessero scared? The woman who forced her smile to face Tessero said, me too. After all, the enemy is Marine Admiral and CP0. Do you think you are dead? Oh, is it? Tessero smiled with interest, me too. After all, no matter how we think about it, we will feel that we have no chance of winning, but I didn't expect this guy Vlad to be prepared and bring a dragon here. Yeah. Stussy nodded and sighed, I didn't expect little Vlad to be friends with that dragon. However, Tessero turned the conversation, stared into Stussy's eyes, and said, why are we being ambushed? Can you explain it, Stussy? Amount. Stussy's face froze, and then he said a little embarrassedly, it's all my fault, there may be government spies lurking in my subordinates. Really? Tessero looked uncertain, where's the evidence? Stussy, understand, you're no longer someone we can trust. X23 US. Com is the fastest update. This. The panic visible to the naked eye appeared on the woman's face, but it was in line with the suspected character setting. Trust me, how could it be me? My heart is still in your hands. That's right, your heart is still in my hands, I can kill you as soon as I want. Tessero looked astonished, of course you don't want to court death, it seems that I really thought too much. Yes. Stussy let out a long sigh, how could I do such a thing? Then go. Tessero put it this way. Go. Stussy was a little confused. Kizaru and Ball leave it to Vlad to deal with them, as for us. Tessero pointed to the marine fleet below. Of course to solve them. Good. Stussy Yanran Isho, of course I'd love to help little Vlad. It's meaningless what he thought. At this moment, Stussy jumped off the big ship with Tessero without hesitation, and fell straight towards the marine battleships above the sea. Vlad was already fighting, and Tessero felt that he couldn't be idle either. At the same time as the battle broke out here, on the far other side of the New World, the Fire Dragon pirates, which were facing crisis, also began to make war dispatches. I'll leave it to you. On the edge of the huge island floating in the sky, the chef's voice was very solemn. Yes. Call. Slowly exhaling a ring of smoke, the beautiful lady maid said lightly, don't worry. Even if this guy can't do it, isn't there me? Hey, woman, are you saying that God is not good? Mr. Enel, who teamed up with Baby, seemed to be in a bad mood. I think you don't have to go, I'm enough alone. Don't be petty, Enel. Cook scolded, this is not the time for jokes. The captain has left everything to us, just take it seriously. Cut. Snorted coldly, of course I listen to the captain. No matter what, it's all up to you. Chef said, we don't have any support for you, understand? On your side, all the fighting power is only the two of you. Is it just the two of us fighting the four emperors? Maid smiled, what a crazy plan. Yeah, ha ha ha. Enel smiled wildly. Isn't this great? I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Just don't die. The maid was a little disdainful. Who will? Enel grinned. It's really not an easy thing to do, but... The chef glanced at his two companions. All we can rely on is you. Your mobility is unparalleled. The Big Mom pirates definitely have no one who can catch up with you. Remember, your goal is not to defeat them, and in fact it can't be done. Infuriating Big Mom. Chef looked serious. I don't care what method you use, whether it's blowing up her fleet or verbally insulting her. No matter what, anger her and let her chase you. That is to say. Enel smiled. Walk her for a walk, right? That's what it means. The chef nodded. Then leave it to me. Enel's eyes were full of enthusiasm. I want to be interested. So be it. Chef nodded. Everything. I'll leave it to you. Yeah, ha ha ha. Then take a good look. Crack. The thunder and lightning roared, and the man incarnated by thunder and lightning had disappeared in the sky. This was not a slow man. I am in a hurry. The maid extinguished the cigarette and said, then, the other side will be handed over to you. The chef nodded. Then. Maid's feet changed suddenly. BABY5, let's go. Woo. The wind was blowing, and the maid's calf had turned into two thrusters, and the terrifying explosive force was acting on her body. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a black line and disappeared into the sky. Call. The chef turned around. It's our job next, right? The famous sword ghost cried on his shoulders, and the man named Luo said, fight the Marine Headquarters fleet. Chef nodded. It's not an easy thing to do. Don't you call your pirate group? It's been a long time since I've been on the scene, the man named Sakata said so. The face of such a big scene as the Marine Grand Fleet, if only a few of us would go on board, wouldn't there be too little platoon? We are the 4 Emperor pirates. The 4 emperors who dominate the New World, how can they do it without an overwhelming army of younger brothers? No. Chef shook his head. Our last resort may be a little too violent, and it is not good to bring too many people. Then, cook. With her eyes hanging from the corners of her eyes, the beautiful woman's face was full of arrogance. Miss Serena, who is now very popular in the Fire Dragon Kingdom, said, where are the so-called reinforcements? Well, reinforcements are on their way, but the most important one of them is. Chef smiled. His words will depend on how far Marine is prepared to go. Look at Marine. Serena was a little confused. Okay, everyone. The chef looked around. All the fighters of the Fire Dragon pirates were assembled, the swordsman Sakata, the musician Serena, the ship Dr. Luo, and the helmsman Babo. There were only 5 people. Let's go. Dedrag, take us there. Hi. With a high-pitched response, the battle began. Chapter 707 One Way. Wow, that's awesome. Flying on the huge ship in the air, the little blonde girl who was left unattended was lying on the side of the ship in amazement, raised her head and looked at the fierce fight between the 4 people in the sky. She looked very happy. I have to say this, the child's heart is really a little big, flying alone in the sky, but still able to laugh. It is indeed not an ordinary little girl. It's amazing. It can fly. The little girl dangled her legs, looking envious. That's great, if only I could fly. However, the envy of the little girl turned into envy, and the battle in the sky was far from her innocence. Touch. With a very dull sound, Vlad slammed Ball's body with a heavy punch. The huge fist covered most of Ball's body like a wall. What? Vlad's pupils shrank suddenly. The feeling just now was not an illusion. The same situation happened again. Vlad was not waterproof. Faced with such a powerful enemy, waterproofing is tantamount to courting death. It was such an all-out strike that did not cause any damage to the opponent at all. It was an amazing sight. Facing a powerful blow like Vlad in the air without any support, there was no basic shaking. This is absolutely not normal. Really. On Vlad's arm, Ball jumped like a horse. The huge size gave Vlad great strength, but at the same time, his flexibility inevitably declined. The head tilted at will, directly avoiding Ball's whip, and the strong wind pressure even made Vlad feel like a knife was cutting on his face. Able 1. Avoided Ball's attack. Vlad twisted his body sharply, and a heavy punch hit Ball's back. Unprepared, even Hockey didn't even use Ball and was hit by Vlad's powerful punch like this. Even if Kaido of the Beasts took such a punch, he would be directly knocked into the air. A few bones. However, this body has no special purpose, and Ball, who is just an ordinary person, is still unscathed, and it seems that he has not even received the impact. Shock. Vlad's eyes suddenly stared, and his heart felt like a flash of lightning. Could it be that? Useless. Drinking so much, Ball was unharmed after being punched by Vlad. His right foot flashed like a phantom, his body twisted like a big bird, and charged towards Vlad again. Then let's try it. Vlad really said loudly, without flinching at all. He also slammed out with a heavy punch. Boom. The two fists slammed together heavily, and the air instantly turned into a fierce storm, blowing toward the sky, toward the sea, and toward everything that could blow past. With a low cry, the huge figure was blasted out directly, passing a troubled trajectory in the air. It was a really surprising sight. Vlad, who was extremely huge, was blasted out by Ball, who was far smaller than him. It was really amazing in terms of visual effects. Is that enough strength? Without stopping at all, Ball's body charged towards Vlad again. High. Vibrating his wings violently, Vlad kept his figure, distanced himself from Ball, and shook his right hand with a smile on his face. It hurts enough. Don't try to run. Vlad is like a shooting star, so Ball is like a gust of wind. Even if he can only rely on Moonstep to stay in the air, his speed is still fast. It is just from the level of his Moonstep that he can see the strength of this man. Run. Vlad grinned. What nonsense are you talking about? With the right hand, the flame surged out, the pure white flame jumped on Vlad's hand, and the terrifying temperature spread instantly. Come and try this. Thrown towards Ball, who was galloping. Woo! The whistling sound sounded, and the small fireball swelled in an instant, but in the blink of an eye, it had turned into a huge fireball, slamming straight towards Ball. Cut. With a very unpleasant snort, Ball stepped on his feet heavily, and his body jumped towards the sky, avoiding the trajectory of the fireball. How can it be so easy? Vlad's right hand snapped his fingers gently, and a long tail flame suddenly spewed out from below the huge fireball. The speed suddenly soared, and it flew up like a lightning bolt and slammed directly on Ball's body. PFF'd. There was some dull sound, without any delay. Almost the moment the fireball wrapped Ball, the man had already escaped from the flame, wrapped in pitch-black hockey, and around this, there was still a faint odor spreading on his body. Rad's flame, the temperature is too amazing after all. Is this the inextinguishable flame of the dragon fruit? Big Bird crossed the sky, Ball slammed his right leg, and a powerful slash was sent out in an instant. Rankyaku Tempest Kick, Shan Arashi. With a chuckle, just VV's sideways, Ball's slash was completely dodged by Vlad. Almost figured it out, your ability. Really? Ball smiled noncommittally, his left leg stepped on the air, and his right leg instantly transformed into countless afterimages, and the slashes all over the sky roared out like a torrential rain. It is indeed quite a powerful ability. Vlad said so. Behind the back, the flames rose up, and then converged in an instant. One after another flame guns have been formed, projecting out like a powerful crossbow, and bombarded with the sky full of slashes, causing the explosion in the sky. The strong shock wave stirred the sky. You can. Vlad turned his head abruptly. A person suddenly rushed out of the smoke in front of him, and punched his head heavily. Vlad turned his head just to avoid his attack. At the same time, Vlad's from the body, the solid flame spear suddenly ejected, and it would smash Ball into a sieve in the blink of an eye. PFF'd. A muffled sound, Ball stomped on the air, and his body bounced out, directly over Vlad's shoulders and above Vlad's back. Absorb the shock wave, right? Boom. The arm jerked up, the pitch-black hockey attached to it, the flames rose, and a much slender leg slammed on it. Whoosh. Terrifying power came from above. Vlad only felt his arm numb for a moment, and his body was kicked out. More than that. Vibrating his wings and keeping his balance, Vlad said, after absorbing, "You can store and then release the shock, right? Accelerator are you?" Cut. Ball was particularly upset. Of course. Vlad looked at his trouser legs that had been burned, and the exposed calf that was somewhat black. Some things don't count as shocks. Chapter 708 Fierce Battle. Hey hey. A chuckle, going suddenly swept across, wrapping directly behind his back, blocking a pitch-black fist. Do you want to sneak attack on Lao Su? This, Tessero had a wanton smile on his face. Isn't it a bit too condescending? Going twisted abruptly, directly wrapping the arm of the man behind him, and then, Tessero twisted abruptly. A lump of going had been covered on his fist, and the dark hockey was attached to it, and a heavy punch had hit the man behind on his face. The strong force directly shattered the man's skull, and the man was smashed out of the deck with the sour bone cracking sound. However, Tessero is not proud of defeating an enemy. His face is full of solemn expression. The quantity is really not covered. Around, on the huge marine warship, there are many marines, but they are all marine soldiers. As for the leaders, they are all guys in white robes and some strange masks on their heads. These people are CP0. Agent. That is to say, is the main force on this side actually CP0? Tessero whispered. Guild Tessero, die. The CP0 agents surrounding Tessero stepped on the air one after another, and rushed towards Tessero from top to bottom. Too much emphasis on Vlad, the result. Tessero's eyes narrowed, the solid deck twisted instantly, and the wooden deck suddenly turned into a going splash. The solid going is now as soft as a flowing water stream, and it surges up in an instant, directly sweeping all the CP0 members in the sky. Do you look down on Lao Su too much? With a casual squeeze, going shrank suddenly. Screams came from inside. Tessero's expression was very unhappy. Be careful. Among the agents of CP0, a certain person stepped forward and said solemnly, he is the awakening ability of Paramesha Golden Fruit. It is not that easy to deal with. Master Jack. As if he had seen the savior, this man who stood up was a big boss even in the high-ranking CP0. Under the order of the government, he could scold the rank of Marshal Marine. Oh. Tessero grinned, here's a decent one. The will of the government. Under the wide robe, long chains spread down, never disobey. Tessero had the most unruly smile on his face. Listen to your farts. Dash 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 dash. Above the sky. Your ability. Vlad put his arms around his chest, flapped his wings one by one, and kept his distance from Ball. Even though Ball's moonstep had reached the pinnacle of his practice, in front of Vlad's extreme speed, he could do it. Things are just ashes. Throwing out a fire dragon, Vlad asked. Shouldn't the name be called Impact Fruit? It is really a very powerful fruit ability, and it can absorb all the shocks that come into contact with itself. Such an ability is simply terrifying. All the fighting technique masters were immediately stunned when they faced him. Fists, kicks, even swords, slashes, no matter what the strength, no matter how strong hockey was, they couldn't deal any damage, they were completely restrained. This guy, terrible indeed. At present, the abilities he has exposed are absorbing shocks. It is self-evident how powerful Vlad's fists are, but even such fists can't even make Ball move. All the shocks have been absorbed. Then, Vlad guessed that the man was able to release the shock he absorbed in a random way, which was quite terrifying. The force released by Vlad's fist was quite powerful, and then such force was released when he punched. The power is superimposed, and Vlad will be bombarded just now, which is really something that cannot be seen again. Since it can be absorbed and then released, there must be a storage process between these two steps. The problem now is that this storage has no capacity and time limit. Therefore, it is absolutely impossible to fight him at close range. This is the conclusion that Vlad came to. It is absolutely impossible. This is purely an act of looking for a fight. On the contrary, it is easier for all kinds of Logia and the wonderful Paramesha to deal with him. Fortunately, Vlad's ability is not a simple zone ability. The powerful flame given to him after the awakening of the fire dragon is also one of his main attack methods. As long as you keep a distance from Ball and simply use flame attacks, Vlad will have the advantage. After all, Ball can only absorb shocks. There. The huge fire dragon with scales and claws bombarded towards Ball. Although it looked like a fire dragon, in fact, this fire dragon had no shape, just a simple flame. Cut. Ball, who was very unhappy, twisted his body suddenly. His right leg was spinning like a steel whip. Renkyaku Tempest Kick had already used it, and the extremely powerful slash was like a circling snake that twists and turns around, rotating, and collided with the rushing fire dragon. Boom! The flames and slashes instantly mixed together, and the flames spiraled into the sky, like a tall spiral spire, pointing straight to the sky. Hey, stop it! Vlad smiled, but since it's blocked, it really means that you really can't absorb heat, flames and the like. Quote. Ball didn't say a word, just rushed forward, trying to close the distance between the two and use his own advantages to dominate the battle. But Vlad is not a fool, of course not as he wishes. If you can't absorb it, then I'm sorry. Vlad smiled, opened his arms, as if embracing the sky. Words of fire. As much as you want. Flame, flame. The overwhelming flames, everything was swept by the flames. Woo! As if a gust of wind was blowing, the flames reversed in an instant, and the waves rushed towards Ball. There was no need for any manipulation or tricks at all. It was only necessary to summon the flames and smash the flames directly. He couldn't escape, leaving no room for Ball to escape. The flames filled everything between heaven and earth. Damn! Ball is keenly aware of this. If he wants to hide, he can't do it. He has no room to hide. Then, Ball raised his head sharply. Om! The air shook suddenly. Yeah. In Vlad's amazed eyes, the flame was suddenly pierced. Awakened. Chapter 709 Absolute Field. Wow, that's awesome. Above the sky, the wind was howling, and the man in the yellow striped suit looked a little surprised. His body was constantly broken and then reassembled in the wind. The wind was as terrifying as the extremely sharp blade hidden. Kizaru's body could not be assembled at all, and could only be turned into photons continuously, and then reunited, and then shattered again. It's terrifying. Kizaru said in a slow tone, Logia, the fruit of wind and wind, it's really scary. Monkey D. Dragon, strong like a monster. Although he said so, in fact, Kizaru did not suffer even the slightest damage. This man is also a Logia-capable person, and he did not add Haki's attack. If it is not the restraint element, of course he will not cause any damage to him. This kind of thing is true for Dragon, and of course it is true for Kizaru. The Battle of Logia is essentially a battle of Haki, physical strength, and fighting technique. It is meaningless to fight with pure ability. Does no harm. However, Kizaru rolled his eyes and looked at the sea of fire rising into the sky at the edge of the sky in the distance. Even across the distance, the scorching wind could be clearly felt. It was an astonishing temperature. The ability seems to be seen through. This is really bad. Fire Dragon is not a good guy to deal with. Vivi twitched Kizaru's face. The last fight with Vlad still made him unforgettable. He was beaten hard. That guy was really tough. Whoosh. The wind was howling, and it was when he was distracted that a powerful whip kicked towards Kizaru's head. Isn't it okay to be distracted? Dragon's voice was particularly low, but his attack was extremely high. The air was torn apart with ease, and the strong kick was enough to crack the mountains and rocks. Touch. A low sound. Dragon's calf slammed heavily on Kizaru's arm. His body instantly turned into a photon, and Kizaru flew out directly. Missed. Dragon was not very happy, but after a moment, a strong light radiated in front of him, and a leg with a strong light was already volleying towards his cheek. Dash 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 dash. Awakened. Vlad exclaimed in surprise. The sea of fire he swayed was directly pierced by an invisible force, and a wide passage had appeared directly. The very astonishing sight was not the wind, nor the slash, but something else. I couldn't feel it at all, but it suddenly appeared and completely tore apart the sea of fire that Vlad had arranged. There is no doubt that this is the power of awakening. Paramesha is not like Logia, which can manipulate natural forces. It is not easy for Paramesha to achieve changes in the outside world. For ordinary Paramesha-capable users, this is something that can only be done in the awakened realm. But after thinking about it, it's a strange thing that this guy won't wake up. He is at the top of CP0. In theory, this man named Ball should be above Martial Marine and can serve as Tenryubito's strongest shield. Of course, there is no need to question the strength of this man, and it is of course no doubt that he can wake up. Paramesha's awakening is more about its impact on the environment, that is. Vlad fluttered his wings violently, and his body jumped back again, keeping a distance from Ball again. Now by your side, am I unable to perceive that change has occurred? Who knows? Such a low voice. Ball didn't make any movement, but there was indeed a roar of air on his back. His body dashed forward like lightning, and in the blink of an eye, he was already close to Vlad. No. Vlad was stunned for a moment, but his body did not follow his thoughts. With a flash of light, a strong column of fire shot out, condensed into a huge flame spear, and stabbed towards Ball. Useless. The body did not stop in the slightest, and the speed was still fast and charged directly towards Vlad. It stopped, which was beyond Vlad's expectations. The flame gun stopped directly, and did not touch Ball's body, but stopped as if it had lost going's motivation. Oh. Vlad, however, did not look disappointed. Vivi narrowed his eyes, and somewhat understood the regularity of Ball's ability after awakening. Well, so what? Boom. With a slight snap of his fingers, the huge flame gun exploded instantly, and the strong shockwave carrying the surging flames would swallow Ball in an instant. However, Ball's movements still did not stop. There were no unnecessary movements. It stopped, the flames stopped spreading, and then, in a flash, as if they had encountered a wall, the flames were blown away directly, surging in the opposite direction. Out. That's it. Vlad already understood what was going on with this man's ability. The limitation that he could only absorb shock through physical contact had been removed. After awakening, a field had formed around the man, which could absorb and release it. Area of impact. It is indeed a strong perverted ability, capable of both offense and defense. It can be called the strongest shield of absolute defense and the strongest spear that is invincible. However, such an ability is not invincible to Vlad. Drink. With a loud shout, Ball was already approaching Vlad, and he punched Vlad from a distance, and an amazing thing happened immediately. In the void, a strong force suddenly erupted and slammed straight at Vlad. Come over. It's scary. With the freedom of movement, Vlad's wings Vivi flapped, and his body was about to avoid the opponent's attack. It should have been like this. Huh. Vlad's eyes widened and he couldn't move at all. His wings were already very hard, but they couldn't even carry a little wind. Boom. With some dull sound, Vlad only had time to put his hand on his chest, and the dark hockey was attached to it. A powerful force had already slammed into his chest. This bit of power. It doesn't hurt or itches. This kind of power is really not that strong, and it is only a level that can make Vlad feel very painful, and does not cause any substantial damage. Yes, I'm very bad at strength, but... Ball sneered like a convulsion, punching punch after punch on the air in front of him one after another. The very strange thing was that his fist was clearly ready to go, but it didn't have the slightest power. Hey hey hey. Vlad began to struggle violently as if he saw something very amazing, but unfortunately, he naturally couldn't escape. Useless dragon. Ball threw his last punch and sneered, in my absolute realm, all the shocks I can perceive can be absorbed by me, my own, what you caused, you can't escape. Ha! Ball shouted loudly, and somewhere in the air, the atmosphere suddenly shattered, and the terrifying impact had already blasted towards Vlad. After gathering dozens of punches with all his strength from Ball, the terrifying power was about to explode. Get away from me. With such a loud roar, Vlad was suddenly covered with a white outer layer, the flames wrapped around his arm, and he punched heavily in the direction of the impact. Chapter 710 Feeling at Ease, Stage 2. No. Vlad's eyes were sharp, and his arms were constantly shaking. He could clearly feel the infinite power from the void, which was really astonishing. It is hard to resist, even with Vlad's amazing strength in such a counterattack, it is difficult to gain the upper hand. The arm is like being hit by a mountain falling from the sky, and it will shatter at any time. Gala lala. Some teeth-chilling sounds sounded. Vlad's arm was a little twisted, and then, even if it was covered with a powerful hockey, even if the flames spurted, but even so, the scales on the arm were lifted. When you get up, you will be cut off at any time. It is really a strong ability to absorb the impact generated by himself, gather the power of dozens of consecutive punches together, and then explode in an instant. Such a power, even Vlad can't help it. Drink. With a loud roar, the flames on Vlad's arm suddenly surged, the muscles on the arm instantly expanded, and more powerful force roared wildly. Om. The soft voice dissipated, and the strong impact finally ended. Woo. Vlad let out a long sigh of relief, and the powerful impact instantly knocked him away, but in an instant, Ball had already advanced, and the strange field once again enveloped Vlad, and then Vlad's body stopped again. Not moving, apparently, even the shock of moving has been absorbed by Ball. His right arm was trembling constantly, and his shape was weirdly twisted. Click. Straightening the misplaced right hand, Vlad squeezed his fist, and it has been a long time since he was at a disadvantage in the frontal wrestling. Understood. Ball opened his hands, even the moon step was no longer in use, just suspended in the air. I can absorb all the shocks, whether it's yours, mine, even the blowing wind, the surging waves, all I can absorb the impact of. You who are already in my domain. No chance of winning. Tisk. Vlad smacked his lips. That's a proud face. However, this guy's ability is really troublesome. If this guy's ability before awakening is more restrained by the fighting technique, then after awakening, almost no one is restrained by him. The current situation is that Vlad is restricted by Ball's bizarre domain, and he can't do anything he wants. This guy's ability is too troublesome. It should have been understood on the day of disobedience to Tenryubido, dragon. Ball exclaimed, your future is only death. That's not necessarily true. Vlad smiled and raised his right hand, and the dark gravity bloomed instantly. Vlad could no longer maintain the posture of a dragon man, and his body had returned to the appearance of an ordinary person. The dark fruit that resided in Vlad's right hand was indistinguishable. However, even after regaining his human form, Vlad still did not fall, and Ball's abilities continued. Dark fruit. With a mocking smile on Ball's mouth, you thought this trick would work. Obviously, Vlad's use of the dark fruit hammer Kazaru is something that the government is very vigilant about. Ball knows Vlad's tricks very well. The body just swayed, but in an instant, Ball's body was as stable as a mountain, and the dark gravitational force of the dark fruit had no effect on him at all. Tisk. Vlad let out a smile. Can even such a movement of yourself be considered a shock? This way, Ball's ability is no longer simply absorbing shock, but it seems to be close to absorbing force. For example, the force of his body moving towards Vlad loses such an impact force, and of course he can't continue to move, but in fact, the force that pulls him is still there, but he just can't be moved. It's too much trouble, such an ability. Vlad smiled, however, it's not a perfect ability after all. What? Ball frowned. Hey. Vlad smiled, the dark water in his right hand continued, and his left hand snapped his fingers. Did you say it? You can't absorb shocks that you can't detect. What do you mean? Ball's eyes widened suddenly, his mouth was still opening and closing, but he couldn't hear his voice. Oh, so it seems. Vlad nodded, it's really impossible to notice it. The third ability, the fluttering fruit, was activated, and the flow of air was manipulated by Vlad. Quote, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Frown. Ball lunged towards Vlad like a lightning bolt. He didn't resist the gravitational pull of the dark fruit. He quickly understood that in such a situation, Vlad was obviously taking advantage of the fluttering fruit's ability to take time. The surrounding air. Then there is no need to be too afraid in such a situation. After all, it is not difficult to get out of this airless zone, but it is only a problem to think about where to dash and avoid. If you go in other directions, then Vlad will go from the escape from his control space was not something Ball wanted to see. So, let's dash forward, as long as we don't get caught in the dark water. Hey, that's what I've been waiting for. Rushed towards Ball like waves. No. With a muffled hum, Ball's ability instantly activated, and the surrounding space burst out with a strong impact, rushing towards the flames like a gust of wind. The flame has no shape, so of course there is no so-called impact force. It is only the hot wind that has the impact force, not the flame itself. Hey! The flames were blown away, but Vlad's movements did not stop. The flames continued to spew, and the mountains rushed towards Ball like a tsunami. Quote, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Ball gritted his teeth, and sweat started to trickle down his forehead. How much is your shock reserve? Though I'd love to say that. Woo. The flames suddenly broke open. It was Vlad. He was finally able to act. But, as expected, fists are more relieved. Weaknesses are exposed. Boom. Without the slightest hesitation, the huge fist slammed into Ball's body. Even with the hockey defense, Vlad's terrifying power still creaked Ball's body in an instant, and blood spurted out. But he still did not retreat. He absorbed his own shock, but at the same time, the shock that stopped the flames had disappeared, and the flames rushed towards him. Your weakness, I have seen it. Roaring so loudly, Vlad's second punch has already been fired. Too arrogant. With such a loud roar, Ball's ability was activated again, and the impact on Vlad's fist disappeared. Huh. However, Ball's face was full of surprise. Hey. Vlad's sly issue, just for a moment, the flames spurted from behind his elbow, and without any interval, he punched Ball's body heavily. Woo. Slowly heaving a sigh of relief, Ball's eyes turned white, and he almost lost consciousness, and was finally blasted out by Vlad. Comfortable. Phase 2. Only my realm. Chapter 711 Battle of the Two. No. Blood gushed out from his mouth. Even if he had gritted his teeth, the blood gushing out from the depths of his internal organs was naturally so unstoppable. X23 US. Com updates fastest. What the hell did you do? Ball wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth, shook his head and shook his head. Vlad's previous blow was really powerful, and 2 consecutive blows almost made him faint, only to really hit Vlad's fist. Only then will you know what the level of the so-called 4 emperors is. Did what? Vlad turned his head and sneered, don't you feel it very clearly? In other words, wasn't it just an illusion? Ball lowered his head, just when Vlad's second punch. He had activated his ability to absorb Vlad's punch, but the strange thing is that Vlad's fist suddenly lost all power. Just when he was surprised, Vlad's fist accelerated again and hit him heavily. Hey. Vlad smiled and didn't speak. Vlad didn't do nothing for more than a year. He was still very concerned about observation hockey's practice, not just a purely quantitative improvement. In observation hockey's at the same time that the amount has reached a trick that can be used as a conventional combat strategy, a new realm has appeared. This is the second stage of the ultimate freedom, which Vlad calls the solipsistic realm. If we say that the first stage of ultimate freedom is the absolute perception of the external environment plus one's own absolute response, then the second stage of solipsism is the absolute perception and absolute manipulation of oneself. Vlad has achieved the same ability as Rokushiki, 6 Styles Life Return. Through absolute perception of oneself and instinct, he can achieve absolute control of oneself. Well, in this case, by sensing that the impact of one's own fist is weakened, it will stop immediately, and then give Ball another critical blow at the moment when he is surprised. It is such a simple principle. 3 weaknesses. Vlad raised 3 fingers and said, I have noticed that your abilities are not perfect, and your weaknesses, like strengths, are quite obvious. Really? Ball raised his head, his body dashed forward like lightning, and behind him, an invisible impact roared out, pushing him going like a rocket thruster. The first weakness. The flames rose up, and Vlad's body was suddenly covered with a layer of white, with 2 pairs of wings on his back, and a huge ring on his back. Yanwei Wushan, Zhu Rong. Speed was so fast that Vlad didn't give Ball another chance to get closer. The flames surged from his back, his joints, his wings, and the whole body. The wings flapped and disappeared in place in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the distant sky. It's a speed that Ball can't match anyway. There is a limit. Vlad said, your shock absorption is not unlimited. Or should I say, your shock storage is limited. So, your maximum output is limited. This is a matter of course. Vlad had already discovered it when Ball's crazy fist was accumulating power. This guy's shock storage seems to be at the level just now, otherwise there is no reason to show mercy. Vlad at that time could not even move. Can't do it. Second point. It flashed into the distance again, and Vlad flicked it, and a small fireball bounced out. Cannot be used at the same time. Vlad said so. Humph. Ball snorted coldly, and without raising his head, he had already shot at the fireball in front of him. The invisible impact instantly acted on it, and the small fireball suddenly began to vibrate. Boom. But in an instant, the fireball exploded violently, and a strong flame surged out. In the blink of an eye, the white flame was already close to Ball's cheek. Go away. With such a loud roar, the shock wave generated by the explosion dissipated, and then the flame was blown away directly. You can't absorb and release shock at the same time, can you? Vlad smiled and looked very proud. The fireball exploded just now. The shock wave was first absorbed by Ball, and after that, the invisible shock blew away the flames. The last weakness is your own weakness. Vlad waved his hand, and behind him, countless white light groups began to emerge. Treasure of the Dragon. Whispered. Chi. Bombarding Ball like a white torrential rain. Cut. With a cold snort, Ball's pupils spun around like billiards. As far as he could see, all the flame guns stopped, losing the ability to move forward. However, more flame guns blasted towards him with the sound of howling wind. Drink. Ball roared, and the invisible impact spread out. Almost in an instant, the flame guns were directly blown away, streaking through countless splendid trajectories in the air, flying in an unknown direction. This is your third weakness. Vlad said, in the end, your ability is to be activated by yourself. Then, when the number is too large, you can't react. Can you still react? Cut. Ball lowered his head deeply. On the other side, on the boundless sea, a huge fleet is slowly moving on the sea. What do you think will be the outcome of this fight? At the end of the huge pirate ship, a man with a long tongue asked. Me. The man with gray hair and looking very weak said, "It's hard to say." "What do you think? That kid Vlad's Fire Dragon Pirates is really strong." "Yes, lick it." Named Charlotte Parasparrow frowned. "However, what they are facing now is that we and Marine are attacked." "But, Brother Parasparrow." The weak man smiled bitterly. "War is something that cannot be measured by strength on paper. We can absolutely wait a little longer until the Fire Dragon Pirates and Marine decide the winner." "Che, Ben, do you think so too?" Parasparrow looked distressed. "Like that guy Katakuri thinks, lick lick. But Mom is definitely not willing to give up the opportunity to seek revenge on that boy Vlad first." "How is Brother Katakuri now?" Aben asked. "Don't underestimate his physique, even if it was a blow from his mother, he has almost recovered now. The expedition of the IG Mom Pirates is not without disputes." "Eben, where?" From the far side of the deck, a woman's cry came. "Where did you go without a good rest?" "Ah." Ben's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. "Galetta's looking for me." Hey. Parasparrow winked. "Bless yourself. Do you feel like today's weather?" Boom. In the sky, the clouds were very gloomy, and thunder and lightning jumped in the clouds. "Yes." Ben smiled bitterly. "The storm is coming soon." Boom, 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 boom. Lightning, falling from the sky. "Yeah ha ha ha." Above the sky, the man incarnated by thunder and lightning laughed. Under the thunder and lightning, turned to ashes. "Really?" Beside him, the beautiful woman's feet spurted flames. Helplessly said, "Do you have to be so excited?" "Forget it." Kada. Quote. The machine sounded. The woman's arms and the back of her thighs were already spread out, and dense warheads appeared on it. "I'm coming too." Whoosh 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 whoosh. The decisive battle that belongs to the two is now starting. Chapter 712 Deathmatch. Understood. Fujitora, now the mission has changed. Under the sea, on the huge marine warship, the blind Marine Admiral mobile phone held a phone bug. The blue veins on the forehead burst, the lips that were tightly pressed together were constantly trembling, and the man on the other end of the phone was low and full. Angry voice. "The Dragon Pirates are the main target of attack, but..." The other end of the phone, Martial Marine named Akainu spoke in a sharp tone. "The Fire Dragon Kingdom is also the main target of suppression, understand? Destroy it." "Are you kidding me, Your Excellency the Marshal?" Fujitora finally burst out in anger. "The Fire Dragon Pirates are indeed our enemies. Yes, I will actually defeat them, but what did the civilians of the Fire Dragon Kingdom do? Why should they be purged? Is it just because it is the headquarters of the Fire Dragon Pirates? What do you think of life as something? I can't carry out such a task. Stop talking to me." The other end of the phone, Akainu's more angry voice came. "Who do you think you are? Find out where you stand. Isho, you bastard, you are Admiral from the Marine headquarters, give me that Ranger mentality. Put it aside, you won't understand what will happen once the ideas of that country spread. The whole government will be at risk and many more lives will be at risk." Akainu yelled. "Isn't it a simple trade-off of pros and cons? Put your disgusting face of sacrificing some people for the whole world." Fujitora was not at all afraid of the majesty of His Excellency the Marshal, and said loudly, "If tens of millions of civilians have to be sacrificed for the sake of justice, please don't use such stupid justice to shame people. And it's still fighting against the pirates. Can this be considered justice? You're bullshitting Lao Su. Isho, just do it." Akainu's voice was extremely low. "I don't care what you think about the people there. That country must be wiped out for Lao Su. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you now. I'm going to Mariajoy soon. Some bastards should give me an explanation about the Big Mom Pirates." Click. Hang up over there. Yeah. Beside Fujitora, the smiling man looked very surprised. "Boss Akainu has retreated. Brother Isho, that's amazing." Who? Heavily, Fujitora's expression was extremely solemn. "I can't agree with such a righteous old man. Well, this is the last concession made by boss Akainu. Codenamed Chaton Tokikake, the man named Tokikake smiled and said, haha, although the country must be destroyed, but we can adapt to other things. Just doing something like this because of a difference of thought. Fujitora said solemnly, it's so ridiculous. Ha ha ha, well, there are as many people in Marine who think so. Chaton Tokikake laughed. However, the government did maintain the peace of the world for hundreds of years. Fujitora was silent. Huh. Fujitora raised his head suddenly, and on the sea above, a sea ship slowly approached. How could this be so? The blind man said so. Dash 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 dash. On the other side, Vlad and Ball's battle continues. You're finished. Vlad said, I will beat you to death. Woo. Ball breathed a sigh of relief, his voice was very low, then come and try it. Woo. Wind howled, and Ball shot from his body as if some invisible force was holding him up. Hey, second weakness. Vlad said loudly, and the flames spewed out, rushing directly towards Ball. Cut. Ball looked a little unhappy, and invisible fluctuations surged out, forming a strong wind that directly blew the flames away. Vlad didn't give him any more time, just flapping his wings, his body seemed to move in an instant, with a strong flame, rushing straight to Ball's body. Damn. Ball gritted his teeth, and the fact that absorbing shock and releasing shock couldn't be done at the same time meant that Vlad's movement could not be restricted while blowing away Vlad's flames. Unable to resist Vlad's attack. Hey hey. With such a big laugh, Vlad's huge fist has been blasted out, and the terrifying power will definitely bring a refreshing experience to Ball's relatively weak body. Too arrogant. Such a loud roar. Ball did not advance and retreated, wrapped a layer of hockey on his body, and rushed straight into the raging flames. Ah! With a look of amazement, Vlad felt that the power above his right arm began to weaken rapidly. Obviously, Ball's ability had begun to activate, and the movement of his body had stopped. He had indeed fallen into Ball's domain again. And then, the third weak spot. Vlad's fist froze suddenly, and the solipsistic realm gave Vlad the powerful ability to control himself, allowing Vlad to achieve perfect control over his body. Drink. The fist stopped, and the whip leg was already drawn towards Ball. What's the use of this? Ball had flames wrapping around his body, his eyes widened, and Vlad's kick slowed down again, but again, the impact was not absorbed. Drink. Without paying too much attention, Ball's body was drawn like an open longbow, and the punch that was ready to go was already smashed towards Vlad's chest. Humph. Stabbed towards Ball from all directions. Cut. A very unpleasant snort, the decisive look in Ball's eyes flashed away, and now, it seems that there is no other choice. Drink. With a low drink, sweat suddenly flowed from Ball's forehead. What? Vlad shouted in surprise and stopped everything, whether it was the flaming spear or Vlad's own movements, everything stopped. I don't really want to use this trick. Roaring like this, Ball was already close to Vlad's chest. Immediately afterwards, Vlad felt that his movements suddenly resumed, his ability was released, and then he felt a sharp pain in his chest. Wow! Vlad let out a pained cry, and punched his chest with a strong impact. The bones were directly broken, and the internal organs were also severely injured. But at the same time, Vlad's counterattack was sent out at the moment when Ball released the shock from absorbing and released the shock. The huge fist slammed heavily on Ball's body, directly blasting the man out, blood gushing wildly. Hoo. Breathing heavily, Vlad lowered his head, and there was a depression in his chest. Then, he raised his head, his eyes full of enthusiasm. That is to say, next, there is only a fight to the death. Is that so? Chapter 713 The Limits of Life, The End. In the sky, the white six-winged dragons are fighting fiercely with Ball. To be honest, the third weakness of Ball's S ability mentioned by Vlad is actually not true. He doesn't need to pay attention to the object containing the impact, and then he can actively activate the ability to absorb it. After years of practice, Ball has long been able to absorb shocks anytime, anywhere, and after awakening, he can directly absorb shocks from the entire surrounding area, which is really a terrifying ability. As long as he is willing, all the shocks will be absorbed in a circle around his body, and with him as the center, a whole field of stillness will appear. But he didn't like to use this ability very much, and even resisted it. The reason is, what Vlad said was the first weakness of his abilities. His shock storage is capped. Ola 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 ola. With such a roar, Vlad's mouth kept gushing out blood, and then evaporated under the high temperature in an instant. At the same time, his fists fell like raindrops, blasting towards the enemy one after another. At the same time, strong flames gushed out from his body, part of which turned into surging flames and rushed towards the enemy, and the other part condensed into dense flame guns and bombarded towards Ball. But it's useless. The power has dissipated before the fist is completely blasted out. Similarly, the flame gun is no longer able to move forward when it is very close to Ball. However, it was the torrent of flames mixed with the surging flames and the flames transformed by the explosion of the still flame gun that caused enough damage to Ball. Even though his body has been covered with a strong hockey, Vlad's ultra-high temperature flames are also not so easy to bear. Ball is a normal person's body after all. Because of his ability, his body is among the strong in the first echelon. It belongs to the weaker kind, and hockey is not too prominent. In Vlad's flame, it is a little difficult. The sweat on his forehead had evaporated before it had a chance to flow, leaving salt crystals everywhere on his body, and indescribable pain came from every corner of his body. However, while Ball was under attack, his attack continued. Since the impact cannot be released while absorbing the impact, then don't release it, just use your fist. The body bullied Vlad's body, fists, feet, and bombarded Vlad's body one after another. The current situation is that Vlad's effective counterattack is only flames. Puff puff puff. When Vlad kept vomiting blood, Ball was also suffering from burns, and the body under the dark hockey had also become dark, and the burns had penetrated deeper from the skin and muscles. No. Just as Vlad was throwing his fists weakly, but could not do any damage at all, Ball's eyes suddenly burst. Blood suddenly gushed out of his mouth, his body swelled suddenly, and the exposed part of his body burst into blue veins. So fast. Ball was taken aback. How long did the two officially start their confrontation? But it was full, his shock reserve was overflowing. This guy, the fist is too heavy. Ball sighed so. This is the reason why he is reluctant to use this ability. The completely indiscriminate absorption makes him not perfect in controlling his absorption upper limit. In addition, Vlad's impact is quite strong. The consequence is that once it exceeds at the limit, he will be hurt by the impact, and the part of the impact that exceeds the limit is an attack on himself. Drink. With a loud roar, Ball's ability suddenly changed, and the ability to absorb shock instantly changed to the ability to release shock. The extremely strong, unmatched, and unstoppable super impact has been blasted out. Wow! There was a scream, and there was no room to avoid it. The distance was so close that even the utmost effort could not dodge it. Vlad's tall body suddenly raised back, like a drawn bow, his back, on the right rib, a deep depression has appeared, the tiny armor composed of flames is directly shattered, and the strong defense brought by the Jurong mode cannot be defended. Such an attack is powerful and terrifying. Vlad only felt that his internal organs were also shattered, and his body was in great pain. It was not just a simple physical attack, but an attack similar to the shock wave of the former Marine Marshal Sengoku the Buddha, which also hurt the inside of the body. But at the same time, at the moment when Ball launched the attack, Vlad had already seized the opportunity. A strong light radiated from the arm, the terrifying temperature spread out, the huge palm suddenly opened, and directly held Ball's body. Touch of hell. Ah! Ball screamed. The terrifying temperature made him almost pass out. The body seemed to be roasted in an instant. The body fluids inside the body seemed to be boiling, and the internal organs seemed to have been steamed. Vlad concentrated all his strength to explode. The terrifying high temperature that came out was really unpleasant. Fortunately, just after the blink of an eye, the impact from ball had ended, and the release of the impact instantly turned into an absorbing impact. Vlad only felt that the palm of his grip on ball suddenly loosened, and the man had escaped. Is this a shock? In Vlad's roar, ball had already rushed in front of Vlad again, and punched Vlad's face heavily. The strong force directly made Vlad's head deflect. However, unfortunately, after suffering heavy losses one after another, Ball's strength is not that strong, and there is nothing that can be done to Vlad's tiny armor and Zhurong's defense. It seems, in terms of life strength. Vlad laughed, I'm much stronger. Zone's awakening ability is such a cheating guy compared to other ability users. The greatly enhanced vitality brings an overwhelming advantage in protracted warfare. Vlad's vitality is much stronger than Ball's. This is the difference between dragons and humans. The flames on his body were aroused, the flames converged, and the battle returned to the beginning. Vlad's flames spurted, constantly causing damage to Ball, while Ball's fist finally broke through Vlad's defense. Punching brought great damage to Vlad. PFF'd. Blood gushed out, Vlad laughed, and flames spewed out towards Ball. You bastard, it's not that you have no blood at all. No. The surface of the body has almost lost consciousness, and the continuous burning of flames has pushed Ball's body to the limit. Fire Dragon, you are the source of the chaotic world. Ball roared, punching Vlad hard in the face. Really? Vlad kept waving his fists and laughing loudly. I feel that I am the hope of world change. You bastard. Wow. Another mouthful of blood gushed out, and before you knew it, the limit had been reached again. At least. Ball's eyes suddenly became firm. Go to hell. The invisible shock surged out, the goal was. Hey dead man. Vlad's eye was always in motion, and at the moment when the ability to absorb shocks dissipated, his fists had been blasted out. Dragon Fist, Supernova Explosion. Boom. The battle between the two finally ended. Chapter 714 Three-Way Battle. Above the sky, the battle has come to the end. Vlad and Ball, the death battle above the sky, is now the last. Ball's body has reached the limit, and the dragon fruit has awakened, restoring power, vitality, and defense. Unlike Vlad, who has been greatly strengthened, Ball's ability is difficult to deal with, but his body is really weak. Perhaps this is the weakness of his ability. The shock storage that exceeds the limit will cause serious damage to the body, and of course, he didn't just encounter this situation once. X23 US. Com updates fastest. To be honest, it is considered that he was unlucky to meet Vlad, and he met Vlad who has a great sense of freedom. A normal person can't detect the opportunity at the moment when he switched from defense to attack, and gave him a second effort. Only Vlad, who was extremely sensitive to changes in the outside world and mastered his own body, could easily do such a thing. To be able to push Ball into a corner and have to engage in a war of attrition with Vlad is truly remarkable. Then, the two finally fought against each other. What? Ball's eyes were extremely surprised. His eyes widened. The boss, in front of him, Vlad tilted his head sharply, and he avoided the impact that he almost shot against Vlad's head while attacking. Although the left side of the head was scratched and blood spattered, it was avoided after all. There was no more time for Ball to think. Vlad's iron fist was already on him. No screams, no exclamations, a strong explosion suddenly occurred. White flames rose into the sky. The terrifying shock wave no longer had the power to restrain it, and instantly turned into a gust of wind, and everything around was in such a gust of wind. Shivering. If the final attack is on the back and chest, it is really difficult for Vlad to dodge, but the target is a much smaller head. For Vlad, who has reached the second stage of freedom, it is indeed not difficult to dodge. The battle between the captain of the Fire Dragon pirates, Vlad the Fire Dragon, and the supreme commander of CP0, Solera Ball ended with the undisputed victory of Vlad the Fire Dragon. Dash 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 dash. What? Are you kidding me? On the other side of the battlefield, Kizaru's eyes almost burst out of his eye sockets with a large amount of intense light that smashed his opponent to pieces. What happened on that side was not something he could calmly accept. That ball. Kizaru's voice was particularly heavy. Did you lose the battle? As one of Marine Admiral's top ranks in Marine now, Kizaru naturally has some understanding of the top leader of CP0. Although he has never played against him, he still recognizes his ability. If Ball is placed in Marine, then there is no doubt that this man will also be an excellent candidate for Admiral. However, for such a strong guy, he was defeated by the Fire Dragon so quickly. Kizaru's mentality was a little bit broken. The warm-up activities between him and the dragon were just in progress, and it was already over there. Although it is true that Logia is very troublesome to fight, but it is too fast, right? In the end, how strong is it? Kizaru muttered to himself, Fire Dragon guy. It's understandable for Kizaru to have such an idea. Indeed, Vlad is stronger than he was a year ago, and his mastery of awakening is also more perfect, but it is impossible to say that there is any qualitative change. In fact, the ability to win Ball is purely based on physical fitness. If Kizaru is able to face Ball, it may be much easier. After all, the beam moves, such an impact, Ball, of course, cannot detect it. He is not aware of Kizaru, can only be a target. It can only be said that Vlad is more restrained by Ball. If Ball's opponent is replaced by an opponent like Aunt Redhead, the outcome is really difficult to say. Oh, it's already been decided over there. Without taking another shot, Dragon laughed. It looks like the government's plan has failed. It's terrifying. Kizaru sighed, I can't keep fighting. Facing both the Fire Dragon and the dragon at the same time, Kizaru doesn't want to die yet. It's troublesome. Such a helpless sigh. Kizaru was not at all worried that he would not be able to escape. I will be scolded again when I go back. The battle on this side is basically over. On the other side, above the boundless sea. Boom. 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 The sky was covered with overcast clouds, and a huge thunder that connected the sky and the sea penetrated the sky and blasted straight towards the huge fleet on the sea. Damn. Still wrapped in bandages, the man named Katakuri looked very dignified, stretched out his hands and turned into a large ball of rice cakes, blocking the sky and protecting the big boat under him. It's Vlad. That bastard's subordinate. That thunder Enel. Whoosh 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 whoosh. A sharp sound rang out, and Katakuri watched helplessly as countless small black dots fell from the sky and bombarded the surrounding ships, causing continuous explosions. In just a few short breaths, the surrounding ships have been bombarded. Damn. Teeth secretly, anger accumulated in his heart, but Katakuri couldn't do anything. He couldn't even see where the enemy was, let alone fight back. Boom. It was like the sound of a mountain moving. Katakuri had foreseen it. It was so huge that a huge cannonball like a hill was slammed towards this side. If it was concentrated, the new Queen Mother anthem would be directly bombed into pieces. Katakuri didn't move, because he also foresaw. Boom. The fat body soared into the sky, and punched directly on the huge cannonball. A strong explosion occurred suddenly, and the violent wind began to sweep. Yeah ha ha ha, it's finally here. Above the sky, two people are communicating. The battle plan is to lead her away, and then you destroy the remaining ships, right? That's it. Don't die. Who is it? On this side, the procrastination battle has also officially started. Dash 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 dash. Moving to the other side, across the sea of the Fire Dragon Kingdom, the situation is very strange. It's a marvelous sight. The huge marine battleship has already risen to the surface of the sea. Although other marine generals are extremely opposed, the man named Fujitora thinks that his group has long been exposed, and it is very dangerous to continue sailing under the sea. Therefore, a large marine fleet has risen to the surface of the sea. Fujitora stood on the bow, looking very puzzled. Although I can't see it with my eyes, my mind has become more sensitive. I'm just an ordinary person. Why dare to stand in front of me waiting for marine? Especially. Your identity is the consul of the country named Hope. On the boat in front, a man with extremely firm eyes stood quietly at the bow of the boat. He said this. Because I should be here. Push book. Dimensional Dragon. Dalago, all those of you who have been unhappy in other worlds. Your lucky day is here. Today I, Dalago H, will take you to the real paradise of our dragon race. Why, doesn't the dragon want to go too? Okay, when my wife can go. Recommended today, the author finds me and wants to PY with me, I really can't stand him. Chapter 715 The Power of Thought. The location is the New World, above a certain sea area. Ha 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 ha. The upper half has completely turned into a going, and on the huge ship that began to sink slowly, a man named Guild Tessero laughed. It's over now, right? In front of him, the CP0s who were bragging about their numbers had all been wiped out. They were all wrapped up by going and turned into going sculptures. Even if they are not in their home field, Tessero's strength is overwhelming compared to these ordinary CP0 members. CP0 is indeed an important department responsible for Tenryubido's safety, but this does not mean that they are all monster-level strengths, so one of the Secret Service's spy agencies has a ball already pretty amazing. That is, the guy named Jack has some strength, and the others are just the level of a chicken and a dog to Tessero. There. The raging flames fell from the sky and instantly swept all the surrounding large ships. In just an instant, the sea was covered with flames, and everything was shivering in the flames. Hey 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 hey. Going transformed into the upper half of the ship suddenly bounced, and it operated like a spring under Tessero's feet, directly bouncing Tessero into the sky. Vlad, you bastard. Sorry. Ball, who was completely unconscious, motionless, and breathing very weak. Vlad's last blow still controlled his output. Because I think it's quite troublesome for you to solve it. Do you look down on me? Asshole. Tessero was furious. Vlad smiled, and with a slight wave of his left hand, the huge sea ship floating in the air had quickly floated to Tessero's feet and caught the man. Whoosh. With a soft sound, the beautiful woman came up from the bottom and gently landed on the deck. Really, Tessero? Stussy said this with a complaining tone, take me too. Didn't you come up yourself? Tessero narrowed his eyes, that one just now, is it Moonstep? Stussy took an imperceptible step back. Oh, I can't run now. Other side, Kizaru spoke slowly. It was indeed impossible not to run. On one side, it was impossible to take down the dragon. At the same time, on the other side, the fire dragon who had defeated Ball was also rushing in at a very high speed. If he didn't run, he would inevitably be beaten. But before running, Kizaru's eyes swept down, and the huge lanternfish corpse on the sea was still floating quietly. The large lantern extending from his forehead was soaked in the water, exuding a strong light. Inside, it is pure gold, which can make people's physical. Yasukani no Magatama. Quote. Countless light bullets fell from the sky. Although I couldn't take it with me, I couldn't leave it to the pirates, right? Hey, asshole. At this time, Vlad's unwilling voice came from a distance. At the same time, on the other side, on the verge of the Fire Dragon Kingdom, an unpleasant chat was going on. Haha, what a coincidence. Wearing a plaid coat, the indescribably wretched man smiled happily. You're the country that Boss Akainu clearly said he wanted to destroy, Jack, the Supreme Consul of Hope. My name is indeed Jack, yes. Although the ship below is not a small ship, it is extremely small in front of the huge marine warship. The man named Jack is standing on the bow of the ship, and it is difficult to see the one on the warship above who is talking to him. Man silhouette. However, the man's face was still calm, in stark contrast to the panicked companions behind him. The country called hope is indeed the result of a common struggle for all of us. In that case, that would be great. The man named Tokikake smiled with satisfaction. Although I don't know why you are here, I declare that from now on, your farce has ended. Why? Jack said, is it just because of the overthrow of the rotten kingdom and the establishment of a country of the people that our existence is no longer allowed? Tokikake's eyes widened in disbelief. Are you a fool? Are you here to say this? In this sea, the only rule has always been that power comes first. The world government always has unrivaled power, so it is the official and the overlord of this world. So when this overlord declares hope illegal, it is illegal and deserves to be eliminated. It's that simple. When the people I love and the country are threatened. Jack's voice was always calm, and what kept surging in his heart was when Dragon told him that Marine's warship had come this way. What should be done? I think I should stand up. Jack said very seriously, although my strength is very small, it may also bring a little help to our country. Is that so? Fujitora held down Chaton Tokikake, who wanted to continue speaking, with a heavy tone, and said, although this old man can't see his eyes, his ears are more sensitive. In this sea, it seems that strength is what decides everything. Basics, Mr. Jack, do you think? What can you do with your strength? Because a few people on the boat below wanted to block the Marine fleet led by Marine Admiral, assisted by an alternate Admiral, and followed by a few Vice Admiral from the headquarters, it was like a dream. I don't know what can be done. Jack shook his head and said, something has to be done, right? And, I think, I have the most powerful power in the world. The greatest power in the world is the mind. Jack said earnestly, I'm so sure that what we're doing is so right, and our philosophy is so good. So, Mr. Jack. A smile appeared on Fujitora's face. Are you going to impress the old man with your words? Have to try. Jack nodded, that was all he could do. Huh. Fujitora tilted her head suddenly. Click. With a light sound, a huge door suddenly opened in the sky, and the pirate ship flying in the sky had already opened from inside. Although I saw an unexpected person, it's not too late, right? On the bow of the fiery red ship, the handsome man said loudly. Marine, Fire Dragon Pirates, join us. Please remember this book's first domain name, .com. Miaoshuwu mobile version reading website, .com. Chapter 716 Reinforcements. Is it finally here? Hands around his chest, Chaton Tokikake laughed. Fire Dragon Pirates. What a luxurious lineup. Looking down at Marine's warship, the chef sighed, I'm a little proud. Marine Admiral Fujitora, Alternate Admiral Chaton Tokikake, and Vice Admirals from the headquarters, no matter how you look at it, it's too difficult to deal with. Can we have a negotiation, and how about withdrawing directly? Chef smiled, there's no need to fight this way. It's good for both of us, right? Member of the Dragon Pirates, Magic Chef Dino. Chaton Tokikake raised his head with a dignified expression on Vivi's face, Prince of Croft Kingdom from the former government, the current second in command of Fire Dragon Pirates, Fire Dragon Vlad's most trusted assistant, Tisk, but not an easy guy. However, it seems that the members are a bit uneven. Chaton Tokikake said, it doesn't matter if the Fire Dragon is not there, isn't the main combatant Enel and the maid Baby 5 not there? How dare you? Are you going to fight us to the end with just a few people? Because Marine is really crafty. The chef looked a little helpless. To join forces with the Big Mom Pirates, this is something we never thought about. Chaton Tokikake was at a loss for words, not knowing what to say. But why are you here? Chef turned his head and his tone suddenly sank, Mr. Jack. The chef didn't hear what Jack said before. Under such circumstances, who would believe that this person was here to intercept Marine? Just relying on him as a guy who has no power. Mr. Dino. Jack didn't show any emotion. His voice was calm and calm. Our country is in danger. Of course I can't just sit back and ignore it, right? What? The chef stared at him, looking a little surprised. You are for? Of course it's surprising. It's really surprising to encounter such a situation. Such courage. Amazing. Fujitora exclaimed so loudly. I understand why the government attaches so much importance to you. Is that so? Smile appeared on the corner of the chef's mouth. It's a little bit better for you. Courage is the glory of mankind. The hymn of man is the hymn of courage. To be able to stand up in the face of life and death, this is courage. We all call those who hold such courage a hero. It has nothing to do with ability. It has nothing to do with gender. Daring to have the courage for what you want to protect is the greatest feat in the world in itself. A person who can do such a thing is a so-called hero. However, Chef opened his mouth and said, let's retreat a little, Mr. Jack, the next battle is not something you can participate in. The next battle is the battle between the Fire Dragon pirates and the Marine Fleet, so Jack is no longer able to participate. After all, these people are ordinary people who lack combat effectiveness. Fire Dragon pirates. Jack whispered, why don't you run? It's not that they can't run away. This is a matter of course. The mobility of the Fire Dragon pirates is well deserved. This is a well-known thing in the world, even in the face of the Marine headquarters and the Big Mom pirates. But as long as you think if they ran, of course, the enemy wouldn't even have a chance to eat ashes. But no, the Fire Dragon pirates did not run. In the face of an invincible strong enemy, he did not choose to run away. Jack was not the only one who had the courage. Why do you have to say something? Was a smile on the chef's face, a proud smile, because our captain said he was curious. Curious. Jack was also a little curious. The captain was curious. Cook whispered, he wants to see what a country called Hope can do. He always says that this country is just a little spark on a prairie full of withered weeds. So, he doesn't want to watch it go out until he can confirm whether Mars can set fire to the whole grassland. Quote. Jack looked a little stunned, and then, immediately, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Then tell him. This man said. This must be a raging fire. With a smile on his face, it's a raging fire that can bring new seeds to this grassland. Is that so? Chef laughed, that's really good. So you are on the Fire Dragon's side. The huge marine battleship, Chaton Tokikake laughed, then there seems to be no need to hesitate. Really, Brother Isho. Quote. Fujitora looked hesitant, then nodded heavily. According to the current position, then there is really no hesitation. Although, the battle is about to begin. The chef's eyes focused on Fujitora and Chaton Tokikake, on the bow of the marine battleship below. There is absolutely no need to question the strength of these two monsters. My side has an overwhelming disadvantage. There are only 5 people on my side, while Vice Admiral has 6 people including Chaton Tokikake on the opposite side. But, Chef smiled, it's time to arrive, right? Huh. On the VV side of Fujitora's head, a few wrinkles suddenly appeared on his forehead. Does everyone use the same method? To his chest, Fujitora's right hand was already holding the handle of the staff sword. Sure enough, we should never let our guard down. The stick VV in his hand was pulled out, and Fujitora said in a low voice, but wouldn't it be too reckless to act like this in the face of this old man? Crack. The long knife suddenly came out of its sheath, and the invisible power surged out instantly. Be careful, Mr. Isho's abilities have been activated. Grab what's around you. Such noises were constantly heard from several large ships. Then, without any warning, the huge warships broke out of the water and flew directly into the sky. By the way, the ship where Jack was also flying into the sky. Then, Fujitora's head dropped. Drink. With a soft cry, the staff and knife in his hand swung down, and the purple halo spread toward the sea below. Om. An extremely terrifying scene appeared, and a huge depression suddenly appeared on the sea below, just like a basin suddenly appeared on the endless grassland. Flowing water came from the front, without any warning. A hole suddenly opened above Fujitora. The man with the two knives in his hand had already saved, and a powerful slash like water had already slammed over. Drager, which was originally suspended in the sky, has disappeared. Scared me. Such a laugh. The man named Tokikake waved his right hand, and a huge amount of soil gushed out instantly, turning into a torrent, mixed with armament hockey, and blasting towards Sakata like an indiscriminate bombardment. Room. Quote. Such a voice gently remembered that the translucent space had enveloped the entire warship. Slaughterhouse. I don't know when the man on the side of the warship now had a mocking smile on his mouth and waved his left hand gently. Yeah. Chaton Tokikake uttered a terrifying voice. His body had instantly appeared diagonally below the big ship. The strong gravity was attached to his body, and his body had suddenly fallen down before he recovered. That's not good. Fujitora said softly. The stick and knife in his hand had been blocked in front of him, and the gravity suppression was suddenly lifted, and a huge wave was instantly brought up on the sea. When the ring-like slashing water slammed heavily on Fujitora's blade, the deck instantly shattered, and Fujitora's body couldn't help but retreat. Woo! He held Chushui in his left hand, and his right hand held a chrysanthemum character on his shoulder. The man named Sakata opened his mouth and said, "The reinforcements that have finally arrived, let them come on stage well." PFF'd. A huge sound suddenly came from the sea, and a large ship had broken out of the water. With the appearance of the big ship, there is such a sound. He. I thought I couldn't catch up. It's amazing. Pulling boats is really good. Fishman clan, right? Jinbei. Reinforcement has arrived. Please remember this book's first domain name, .com. Miaoshu mobile version reading website, .com. Chapter 717 Conversation in Chaos. Above the turbulent sea, a huge sea ship has suddenly emerged from under the sea, and a turbulent current has been added to the already turbulent sea. Hey, but it was really scary just now. When it came into contact with the air, the membrane covering the big ship had disappeared, revealing the sturdy figure now on the bow. Is that what Marine's new admiral, Fujitora, Isho are capable of? The name is Gecko Moria, the Paramesha Shadow Fruit ability, the captain of the terrifying three-masted sailing ship, the commander of the pirate group under the Fire Dragon Pirates, and a well-deserved hero on the sea. Yes, Vlad is very trusting, very optimistic about a man, quite reliable, quite powerful. Hey, any reinforcements? Without the gravity suppression of Fujitora, the man codenamed Chaton Tokikake is stepping on the air. The trick called moon step is not a secret skill in Marine. Such a practical trick is really popular. Marines above the Rear Admiral level or basically will use such tactics. Chaton Tokikake is of course also skilled at heart. Gecko Moria from the former Shichibukai, what an incredible guy, and Chaton Tokikake rolled his eyes and looked at the blue figure on the sea beside the big ship that suddenly appeared out of the sea. Although it has long been known that the Dragon Palace Kingdom has hung up the flag of the Fire Dragon Pirates, but Chaton Tokikake said, it's really surprising news that Jinbei joined the Dragon Pirates. Gecko Moria and the sea hero Jinbei. Fujitora frowned, took a heavy step, and swung the staff and knife in his hand heavily, and a purple halo spread. Gravity knife, tiger. Two knife flow, flowing water, ocean current. With such a low voice, the famous swordsman Sakata, who fell on the side of the boat, held the famous sword in his left hand and placed it on the left side of his body together with the chrysanthemum character in his right hand. Then, a blue water rhyme suddenly appeared on the two swords. Big White Dragon. With a loud shout, Sakata's body turned abruptly, two famous swords were swung at the same time, and the powerful slashes surged out in an instant, turning into a huge water dragon, just like the ocean current in the sea water on the side of the new world of Fish Man Island same. Extremely turbulent. Boom. Two powerful slashes bombarded together, the purple tiger and the white dragon, gravity and ocean currents, the equally powerful slashes entangled into the sky, and the white clouds in the sky were also scattered. The huge marine battleship shattered instantly, and even the marine battleship, which was still able to walk on the ground in the harsh ocean conditions of the New World, could only be smashed under the current confrontation of the two people. No. Sakata let out a low cry, and his body was blasted out directly. The slashes could cancel each other out, but gravity itself was invisible and intangible and could not be touched at all. After the slashes mixed in the gravity knife were offset, the gravity directly blasted Sakata away. Click. With a light sound, behind the blasted Sakata, an air door suddenly opened, Sakata flew in directly, and then the door closed instantly. At the same time. Room. Quote. The translucent spherical space spread, and a man named Luo had appeared on the deck. In front of him was the Archon of the Land of Hope, a guy named Jack. Let's get out of the battlefield. Luo, say so. Isho bro. Over the top. As soon as he landed, and before he could stand firm, the ship under his feet was shattered to pieces. Chaton Tokikake complained loudly. Sorry. Fujitora apologized repeatedly, and at the same time, the movement of his hand was not upright. With a slight wave of the staff and knife in his right hand, invisible power spread out, and the scattered people and objects stopped moving instantly and began to float towards the other large ships. And go. Fujitora is not only able to manipulate gravity vertically, it can also easily change gravity in other directions. In this regard, it is very close to Vlad Fluttering Fruit. But, is it Shichibukai again? Fujitora frowned. If you calculate it carefully, there are 3 Shichibukai in the Fire Dragon Pirates, Captain Fire Dragon Vlad, and now Gecko Moria and Seaman Jinbei. These are 2 Shichibukai again. Hey, little brother, I can't let you succeed. While Fujitora was meditating, Chaton Tokikake, who stood with Fujitora on a piece of deck debris floating in the air by Fujitora's ability, said strangely. Let's get out of the way a little bit. With a flick of his hands, a black-brown torrent rushed out, mixed with hockey, and slammed straight towards the boat, without leaving the slightest hand. Whether it was Luo or Jack, Tokikake wanted to kill them all. Damn. Cold sweat broke out on Luo's forehead instantly. As expected of a monster who can take on the role of admiral, he is terrifying in both strength and reaction ability. He just came here, and the opponent's attack came instantly. Fishman Jiu-Jitsu, ocean current over shoulder. A loud shout came from below, and the sea current that rose into the sky instantly bombarded the landslide-like debris flow. The strong impact directly knocked the debris flow away. The debris flow that originally aimed at Luo and Jack directly slammed into the back of the ship. Directly smashed the second half to smithereens. Jinbei. Chaton Tokikake frowns. Really helpful. Luo breathed a sigh of relief, and his energy immediately focused on the remaining half of the ship. Please wait for this, little brother. It was at this time that Jack suddenly said, Can you send me to? Huh. Luo was shocked. Brother Isho, you have to control the gravity. Chaton Tokikake said so loudly, I'm not going to miss this time. The man raised his right hand high, and a huge amount of mud poured out. His right arm had turned into a huge mud arm. Then, wrapped in hockey, he punched the opposite half of the boat. Boom away. Click. With a light sound, the air door opened in front of the boat, and an equally huge fist slammed out from inside, wrapping a powerful hockey and punching directly on the mud fist of Chaton Tokikake. Boom. The earth-shattering explosion sounded like a thunderbolt in the sky. Both fists collapsed almost simultaneously. What a troublesome ability. Chaton Tokikake complained loudly, how come no one thought of using this when we were on our side? He. The pitch-black bats rushed up from below with a sour laughter, swarming directly towards Chaton Tokikake. Moria. Some angrily clapped his hands, and a huge amount of mud poured out from his body, turning into a tornado of mud, sweeping towards the bat. But it's useless, and of course normal attacks are useless against shadow. Then, the shadow bats in the sky converged in an instant, turned into a shadow giant, and blasted Chaton Tokikake with a backhand punch. At the same time, Chaton Tokikake was blown away in the first step, and the next moment, two figures had appeared where he was standing. I still feel like I can do something. Quote. Moment of silence, Fujitora let go of the staff and knife in his hand. The old man can listen too. Please remember this book's first domain name, .com. Miaoshu mobile version reading website, .com. Chapter 718 Brawl. Tisk. Although the man whose code name was Chaton Tokikake had a good temper and was very popular in Marine, his good temper was only aimed at the Marine camp's partners, enemies, of course. Forget it. His feet trembled suddenly, stepping on the air, it was like stepping on the ground. Moonstep was used again, Chaton Tokikake body had already risen to the sky. With a move of his right hand, a huge amount of soil had poured out, it was like a huge vortex that swept Moria's shadow into it and smashed it into pieces. But again, of course, such an attack cannot be expected to work on the invisible shadow. In just an instant, the shadow rushed out of the mud vortex, turned into shadow debris that filled the sky, and then gathered together again, and the huge shadow giant appeared again. It's not over. Chaton Tokikake frowned, and immediately realized that his attack was futile. If Moria was not dealt with, then any more attacks on the shadow would be useless. Then find the target directly. Chaton Tokikake suddenly stared at Moria on the ship below, and stretched out two hands. It's a trick from Boss Akainu. Puff puff puff. Chaton Tokikake's two hands have changed into the form of mud, and then, with some deep and loud noises, groups of huge mud blocks have spewed out from Chaton Tokikake's hands, like a meteor shower towards Moria and Jinbei below were smashed. The amazing sight that covers the sky and the sun, the terrifying might of the Logia-capable person is undoubtedly revealed. Even if it doesn't compare to Akainu's meteor volcano, it's still amazing power. Hey, such a trick. On the sea, Jinbei looked a little surprised and said loudly, Moria, are you okay? Hey, it's fine if I'm alone, but... Moria stood on the bow of the boat, glanced down at Jinbei, and said with a smile, but if you add you, I'm afraid it will be a little troublesome. Then take care of yourself. Such a loud roar, Jinbei's body instantly sank to the bottom of the sea. The fastest swimming creature in the world is a mermaid, so of course the second fastest creature is Fishman. He. Mouth wide open, Moria's smile was extremely ferocious, and these three words spit out from his mouth. Shadow Warrior. Dash. Boom. 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 Huge clods fell from the sky like rain, each no smaller than Moria's boat, huge, amazingly huge. The waves on the sea were turbulent in an instant, and the sea, which was not so calm before, was now even more turbulent, and the huge waves had washed up to a height of tens of meters. But, constantly stepping on the air, Chaton Tokikake has landed on the side of another warship, looking a little surprised. What's the matter? He. This kind of laughter came from one side. The shadow bat that had been circling around him like a bone-encrusted maggot had disappeared, replaced by a burly guy with two small horns on his forehead, whose name was Moria Guy. What the hell is going on? Moria's huge fist, who moved in an instant by swapping places with his own shadow, was wrapped in a powerful hockey and hammered at Chaton Tokikake. Chaton Tokikake is not surprised but happy, and suddenly turned around, very surprised. Deliver it yourself. Touch. A light sound, Moria's fist slammed heavily on a dirt wall. Although it was made of dirt, if a strong hockey was added, it would instantly become an indestructible iron wall. Logia is mostly fluid, has no substance, and cannot attach hockey, but there are some exceptions, such as Kuzan, s frozen fruit, Akainu, s magma fruit, and Chaton Tokikake s earthy fruit. Being able to do such a thing is indeed very advantageous. Cut. An unpleasant grunt, Moria's fist had already slammed into the mud wall made by Chaton Tokikake. Moria, boss Akainu means that all the fire dragon related guys can't be spared. The mud wall that Chaton Tokikake turned into in his right hand softened directly, wrapping Moria completely. Of course you are one of them. PFF'd. Wrapped Moria shrank instantly, squeezing out the shadow bats that filled the sky. Quote. Chaton Tokikake gritted his teeth, what a troublesome ability. Using the same trick again to switch positions with the shadow, Moria laughed proudly, Marine Candidate Admiral, he. That's all. Jinbei, quote. Laughing so loudly, this man is about to fall into the sea. The shadow that he had replaced before was bombarded by earth and rocks that fell from the sky. It was originally not high above the sea. After changing it, the shadow could fly, but it doesn't mean Moria can fly. Moria, who doesn't know the moon step, starts to fall as soon as it appears on the sea. As a capable person, falling into the sea means the game is over. But luckily, he's not alone. Catch me. Such a big laugh, Moria felt no fear at all. Whoa. The waves were undulating, and the blue fish man jumped out of the water and directly caught Moria's tall body. Don't cause trouble to others. A loud roar, Jinbei pulled Moria hard and threw the guy directly into the sky. Hey, really reliable, Jinbei. Like a rocket soaring into the sky, Moria laughed, as a partner. Click. The moment Moria flew into the sky, the door in the sky suddenly opened, Moria flew in directly, and then the door closed. Damn, it's really troublesome. Chaton Tokikake landed again on a warship. Very annoyed. Hey, brother Isho, that's almost what you said, right? It's time to fight. Since these guys are avoiding the fight, let's just drive straight to the Fire Dragon Kingdom. Chaton Tokikake especially had a headache with Fujitora talking to the man named Jack in the distance. Click. The door opened once again, and the big ship poked its head out of the green space. I can't let you go. The cook stood on the bow with a smile on his face. That place is the kind of fire that the captain is looking forward to. Then stop and see. Chaton Tokikake twitched the corner of his mouth. Behind him, 5 Vice Admiral, Onagumo, Yamakaji, Momonga, Stoloberg, and Dalmesia from the Marine headquarters rushed towards this side. All of them are old rivers and lakes who have been fighting on the sea for decades for the sake of justice, and each of them is extremely strong. However, the Fire Dragon pirates are not without manpower. Let them out. Chef said so loudly, Dedrag. Hi yo. A red energy body appeared on the deck, and the ship's spirit named Dedrag responded enthusiastically. Click. A door suddenly opened under the ship, and 10 culture jars fell out directly from it. Clap 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 clap. Then, the culture jar was smashed directly, the green culture liquid inside splashed everywhere, and the 10 puppy-like beings with wings behind them fell directly. Then, almost instantly, these falling things made a shrill, piercing cry, and then they are flying. Lightning rushed towards Marine's Vice Admirals. Please remember this book's first domain name, .com. Meowshuwu mobile version reading website, .com. Chapter 79 The Last Reinforcement. So, Mr. Vlad. Above the sky not high from the sea, the huge fire dragon pierced the sky, and the terrifying speed was completely invisible to the naked eye. Ordinary people's eyes couldn't leave traces at all, and they could only feel a strong wind blowing past. On Vlad's back, he used his ability to disperse the air, and the man who was sitting firmly on his back asked. Just leave that CP0 alone. He was referring to Stussy. Leave her alone, dragon. The huge fire dragon roared, it's just a small person, let Tessero look at her now. Perhaps, she can also contribute a small part of our battle strength. And, let's go, now. The ferocious dragon face showed a big smile. Maybe after the leader of CP0, you can still get an admiral. Dash 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 dash. On the other side, the fierce battle continues. The sky, the 5 vice admirals from the Marine headquarters are very distressed. All their combat experience is completely useless when facing the current opponent. After all, their opponents are not people, not even the world. Creatures that have appeared in the past. The magical creature named Chimera, created by Mr. Passo, a biologist of the Fire Dragon Pirates, is indeed quite a powerful thing, with super strong adaptability and evolution ability, a body as hard as steel, even if the price is lifespan extremely short, but really a great value for money. Even Marine Vice Admiral was very stretched when faced with a siege of 10 such monsters. Tisk. Now on the bow of the warship, Chaton Tokikake's expression is very ugly, it's really terrible scientific research strength. Is there still such a thing hidden? Everyone underestimates you. This is the old man's. Is it a work? Or is it the work of a man named Passo? Sorry. Opposite Chaton Tokikake, a fiery red pirate ship floats in the sky, and the chef smiles. This is a secret. It's a little naughty, but... Chaton Tokikake, eyes narrowed. If you don't want to say anything, just die with your secrets. Drink. Chaton Tokikake stretched out his right hand, and a huge amount of mud poured out, turning into dozens of huge mud pillars, wrapped in a strong haki, and slammed directly towards the platinum. Drider. Even if the platinum, Didrag is made of the treasure tree atom, but I am afraid it will not end well in the face of such an attack. It can't be done. The chef said casually, and with a flick of his right hand, a huge amount of butter poured out wildly, instantly turning into a huge wall, and the strong haki was already attached to it. Dang 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 dang. Quote. A continuous bang, the mud pillars of Chaton Tokikake slammed hard against the chef's butter wall, and it didn't take much time for the butter wall to shatter. But at the same time, after the wall was shattered, a figure suddenly jumped out from behind the wall, and the 2 knives in his hand shone with intense brilliance in the sunlight, as beautiful as flowing waves. 2 swords flow, flowing water, profound truth. Sakata's eyes were hidden in the shadows, and his whole body was covered with a light stream of water. The Great Flood. Extremely violent, terrifying, unparalleled in heaven and earth. Although the name is Liushui, it is indeed a ferocious swordsmanship, like a real flood, swept away recklessly, and blasted towards Chaton Tokikake like an indiscriminate bombardment. It's too arrogant. Such a low voice, the man named Tokikake was not afraid. When he raised his left hand, his arm had turned gray-brown. With a flick of his hand, a large lump of dirt had been blasted out into the air and transformed into a huge tusk boar. Boom! The slash swept across the world, and huge chunks of mud splashed around, falling into the sky like a meteor shower. But since it has come before me... Chaton Tokikake put his hands together. Isn't that just a good opportunity? The battle has only just heated up. Dash 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 dash. So, are you trying to convince the old man with words? Having detached from the scene and floating on a piece of broken wood in the air, Fujitora said. Because I think. In front of Fujitora, a man named Jack said, we can be friends. PFF'd. Ha ha ha. Fujitora started laughing suddenly, completely unable to stop. He did not speak. I don't have much to say, Mr. Isho. Jack's voice was always slow, but it contained a strong sense of power. I just want to make it clear that our cause has not gone wrong and what we are doing is, without a doubt, a truly just cause. Justice. Fujitora was silent for a while, then sighed, I can't find true justice in the whole sea. What is justice? Government affiliation. Marine. Government. Tenryubido. No, neither. Perhaps the standard of justice was vague and indefinable before, but... Jack said solemnly. Mr. Isho, the more I go on, the more I am sure, and the more confident I am now, our cause is justice. Fujitora was silent. If it is not a just cause for the greatest suffering masses to stand up and get rid of the oppression of the past, then... Jack exclaimed. In this world, I really can't find the most reasonable interpretation of this concept. So, for your justice. Fujitora put it this way, the whole world is going to be involved in a war. This is a must. Jack's words were loud. This world government, has long since decayed. How can we bring new hope without going through a thorough renovation? Neither the current government nor the royal family Tenryubito needs to exist anymore. Jack, who built the land of hope, knows this very well, and it is absolutely impossible to open up a new future without completely shattering the past. Fujitora shook his head and said, the old man admires your thoughts and actions. If the old man is not blind, then the old man would like to see your appearance, but your thinking is too radical. The purpose of this old man joining Marine is to remove Shichibukai. This view has been recognized by many colleagues. They are all trying to make the world a better place. The old man thought, with the existence of these people, the government will change. Better. Internal innovation. Jack said solemnly, it's useless, Mr. Isho, as long as Tenryubito is still around, this kind of thing will never work. Perhaps. Fujitora Isho, but like you said, someone has to do it. It takes someone to try. This time it was Jack's turn to be silent, and he said, when you don't think this is going to work, Mr. Isho, please remember. You still have the option of resisting this. Oh, ha ha ha, are you trying to persuade the old man? Fujitora laughed. Our positions are diametrically opposed. No. Jack finally smiled. I think we might be friends. Those who also uphold their own will and want to change the world and make the people better are of course sympathetic to each other. That's right. Jack suddenly said, Mr. Isho, the Dragon Pirates, I think they are really a great pirate group. Huh. Fujitora was taken aback. The world will one day appreciate what they did today. The first step was taken by them. Jack said so with great certainty. Are you pleading for the fire dragon? Ha ha ha, this can't be done. Fujitora waved his hand. I'm not planning to go to Hope, but the fire dragon pirates are real enemies. We're almost done talking, right, Mr. Isho? Such a loud shout, the man named Onagumo blocked the chimera that was rushing towards him with a knife, and with the help of the impact, he instantly came to Fujitora's side, and slashed towards Jack's neck with a single knife. Let me do the execution first. Kara. Fujitora's hand was already clenching the staff and knife in his hand, but immediately, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth and he let go. Kaka. Some crisp sounds. When? What? Onagumo was extremely surprised, and the ice block that appeared out of thin air directly blocked his attack. Alas, sorry, but I think this man should continue to live. Chapter 721 After another all debut. Of course, I don't mean to be an enemy of Marine. Such a voice came from the sea below. I just think it's a pity that this man died here. What? Onagumo's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. He stepped on the air lightly, and his body bounced up and landed next to Fujitora. No way. Incredible tone. Why are you here, Kuzan? I don't know when. The sea surface not far from the deck fragments flying in the air has turned into a hard ice surface. The tall and thin man put his hands in his pockets and smiled lazily. Hungry. With Onagumo, Jinbei was also stunned. His upper body was exposed to the air, but his body was frozen in ice block. No way. His eyes widened suddenly, and cold sweat began to seep on his forehead. Chaton Tokikake slammed the swordsman with two swords into the air with a backhand punch, and directly slammed Sakata into the open door. To disperse the shadow bats around, this guy is already strong enough to face the chef at the same time, and Sakata Moriya's teamwork will not be at a disadvantage. Brother Kuzan, why are you here? Help Chatan Tokikake, so surprised. This sudden appearance of a man, Kuzan is not an easy guy. Admiral, the predecessor of Marine Headquarters, was the man who was the most powerful man in the world government not long ago. Suddenly appearing on the battlefield, the target is still one of the target characters to protect the Marine fleet in this battle. Longer Marine, what is the purpose? Chatan Tokikake can't help but be surprised. If Kuzan really gets mixed up with the dragon pirates, what should be done? This time, the combat power reserve is not enough. Chatan Tokikake is a little worried. Before Kuzan joined in, their combat power was dominant. As long as Fujitora joined the battle, there was basically no suspense in the battle. Even with the addition of Moria and Jinbei from the original Shichibukai, it was absolutely impossible against his alliance with Fujitora. However, the appearance of Kuzan broke such a possibility. Tokikake, why am I here? Kuzan scratched the curly hair at the back of his head, pondered for a moment, and said after deliberation, what, Sleepwalking. Yes, it's sleepwalking. I don't know why I'm here. I slept too fast just now, it's sleepwalking. Quote. Chatan Tokikake is speechless. Kuzan. If Chatan Tokikake doesn't say anything, it doesn't mean others have nothing to say. Marine Vice Admiral, codenamed Onagumo, asked loudly, "You bastard, are you stopping me?" Hawkish Marine General always thought that Kuzan and Kizaru were too lazy, and they were very unqualified when they served as admiral, so naturally they would not have a good face now. Onagumo. Kuzan looked a little distressed, frowned, and his eyes with sunglasses couldn't see happiness and anger. What a troublesome person. Answer me, Kuzan. Onagumo said angrily, what the hell are you trying to do? After you left Marine, are you going to completely deviate from justice? Even though Kuzan and Kizaru's actions were a little underwhelming before, the man named Onagumo had never doubted Kuzan's righteous heart. Don't get me wrong. Kuzan said, Onagumo, I'm still me, except, outside the Marine, I saw something else, you know. I see new possibilities. You mean this guy? Onagumo said angrily, this insurgent. Whatever you say, anyway, this man is better alive, he may bring new changes to the world, I really think. Kuzan smiled, but there is a word I still hope you can help me bring to Akainu. What? Onagumo frowned. Tell him that the position is not fixed, but can be changed. What the hell do you mean? I mean, Kuzan said, the righteous Marine may need to change his mind. Because, perhaps, the justice that Marine insists on, will no longer be justice. The man who has always had justice in his heart said, I think so more and more. Times are starting to change, not just the pirates, but also us Marine. So, Kuzan. Boom. Chatan Tokikake fell from the sky, landed heavily on the ice, and smashed a big hole in the ice block. Are you going to stop us from crusting the dragon pirates? Don't get me wrong. Kuzan waved his hand, although I said I want to see what the fire dragon can do. In fact I have nothing to do with them, It's a pity that this man, Mr. Jack, is dead now, that's all. But, Kuzan. Chatan Tokikake said, this man is our enemy. It's our mission target, and even so, do you want him to live? Quote. Kuzan nodded, I lived in a country called Hope for a while, it's really a very dynamic country, it's like, a fire. So. The smile on the corner of Chatan Tokikake's mouth disappeared completely, that's what it means to really fight against us. If. Kuzan looked languid, if you really want to kill him. That is. Chatan Tokikake has extremely gloomy eyes, and the anger in his heart can no longer be suppressed. You are indeed facing us now, aren't you? Even when Kuzan left Marine, Chatan Tokikake didn't care. He knew very well that what was surging in this man's heart was justice that could never be erased, and they were naturally comrades in arms. But now, Chatan Tokikake feels that their wills have diverged. Ah la la, I just want to save this man. I don't want to be your enemy at all. I don't care what you want to do with the fire dragon pirates. Kuzan looked a little distressed. That's what it means, already, Kuzan. Chatan Tokikake said in a low voice, that's what it means to be our enemy. Kuzan scratched his head and said, is it a bit too serious? Quote. Chatan Tokikake was silent for a moment, then said, if it's your will, then Kuzan, I respect you, you're not one to be moved by the words of others, so Kuzan. You're us, Marine's enemy. That's it. Kuzan Vivi bowed his head. At least. Chatan Tokikake gritted his teeth, this time. Hey, Tokikake. Kuzan laughed. Kuzan. Chatan Tokikake turned his arms into mud, and said angrily, today I must beat you hard. Try it. Kuzan replied. There is always a feeling in the world, no matter what kind of feeling the other party has, but there is no reason to believe him. Woo ha ha ha, it seems that I just caught up. Suddenly, in the sky, such laughter came.